All right, we're live. Hey guys, how's it going? It's Wargamers happy hour tonight. And I've got Nate with me, and I've got Kev, and we're going to talk about everything wargaming and alcohol while we're all stuck in the house. We're just here for social hour. So hopefully everybody's going to have a good time. How you guys doing tonight?
COVID happy hour. Doing great.
Doing pretty
That's
good.
an invisible drink.
Hey, did you see that disappear? That's cool.
What are you drinking? A martini?
It's a margarita, actually.
A margarita. Mo, what are
Yes,
you drinking? No, I know what Mo's drinking. He's drinking Crown.
No, actually, no, not.
Oh, Jameson.
Black Barrel. Nice.
Drinking what got me through college, Miller Lite.
Nice. Very nice.
Actually,
Keeping it real.
I got to be honest, it was Natty Light in college a lot of the times when I was too damn poor to get anything better.
That's what my son drinks.
Well, you could get a whole case for like $10.
Yeah.
And then you puke it up tomorrow.
Yep. That and ramen, man. It'll live like a king.
God.
Exactly.
You know, that's actually where I got one of my nicknames in college. They used to call me Dizzy. And it's because I stumbled home drunk one too many times. And my downstairs neighbors actually found me passed out in front of their apartment complex one time. And they're like, Nate, you're so dizzy. And then it just stuck from then on.
You sure it was your neighbor and not the recruiter?
No, it was
And
the
that's
neighbor.
how, and that's how he got signed up now.
I remember because I ended up sleeping with them. It was nice. It was this group of girls that lived down below me, and I used to hang out with them all the time. And I was like, "Yep, I'm gonna get that one. I'm gonna get that one."
Nice.
Nice. You slept with a recruiter? That's kind of weird, isn't it? I didn't think they did that in the Marines.
Now my recruiter was a dumbass. I hate to say that he'll end up seeing this for sure, but no, he was a good people. He was a typical recruiter. He wanted to get people
Quota.
in. Yeah, that was his goal.
He was a requota.
Yeah, if you messed up somewhere, if you had done some drugs, or if you had done whatever, he had a way around that. He'd get you in. There's a waiver for everything.
Yeah. Well, it depends too. If you're like a real hooplehead, I mean, a dealer and stuff like that.
No.
Odds are they're not going to let you in.
Tell me though that you did not have some friggin' ASVAB waivers in your boot camp platoon. You really did?
My platoon?
Yeah, your platoon.
Probably not that I'm aware of.
Dude, we had a couple of guys that were, I guarantee you, they had to be ASVAB waivers. And for people who don't know what an ASVAB is, it's that test that you take to check your aptitude in multiple different things, not just like intelligence, but how good you are mechanically and everything. So they use this to determine what you do in the military.
How many crayons you can eat in an hour?
Yeah, and a passing score isn't something like a 90, like you would have in a civilian test. I think a passing score is something like a 50 is like average or so. But you need a 35 at least to pass. If you don't have a 35, you have trouble breathing and walking at the same time. And this guy, I guarantee you, he had to have a waiver. And I remember he was directly across from us, so they had the racks lined up on each side, right, as you go down the aisleway. And I was on the right side, he was on the left. And I wake up one morning, I'm like, what the fuck is that smell? What is that? I'm like, it smells so bad. And, we're standing on line, everybody's at attention, and the drill instructor comes up. He's like, what the F is that smell? And he's all pissed off. He's like, this recruit had to make a head call, sir. And he's like, okay, go make a head call. I already did, sir.
In his rack.
Yeah. And he's like, okay, well, what'd you do? And the dude had taken and shit himself, pulled off his underwear, and instead of doing what anyone else would have done, which would have been just to throw it away and clean yourself up as best you can, he's like, oh, well, we've got a laundry bag that just hangs from our rack right next to where we sleep.
He didn't.
And he just stuffed it in there with all his other clothes.
In that mesh laundry bag.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like, these clothes don't come out, right? They just wash the bags. That's why they're mesh. So they could just toss the bags in, you get the bag back with your clean clothes. And this guy had not just one, but multiple pairs of underwear in there that had been filled with poo because he was afraid to go ask the drill instructors to go to the bathroom.
Oh, man.
And this dude graduated.
Who does that?
He was
We had a guy.
waiver.
We didn't have an ASVAB yet. We didn't have any of those guys in my platoon, but we did have one guy. I'm not going to say his name, just in the odd chance that on the internet things get out. I would never want to embarrass the guy, but he was a good Marine. He had some issues, I guess, in boot camp with, getting yelled at. And every time drill instructor got in his face, like clockwork, he'd piss his pants. Like clockwork. So he was changing his trousers, at least 2 times a day. And, he would even do the whole, did you guys have the emergency head call when you had to take a leak?
No.
In between, because if you had it, because there's like assigned times that they'll let you go to the head. Well,
yeah, we had times where you could go without asking. But
no, you had to request permission to go, and stuff, and they'd be like, private request permission, make emergency head call, blah blah blah, and he's like, I don't hear no sirens, I don't see no lights. You have to stand there and go woo 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 like that. That is an emergency, and you had to go in circles. It's just anything to embarrass you. So this guy never did it. He just, by the time the drill instructor got up there and he started screaming at him, you're like, you piss your pants, boy. And sure enough, he did, like clockwork, all the way down the leg. I felt bad for the guy. It was just nervous reaction, but everybody has, eccentricities, I guess. And he was like 18, 19 years old and still pissing his pants, but at least he didn't wet the bed, which was good. But
you know what else I learned in boot camp? That stereotypes exist for a reason, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because, I mean, it's not like a gay thing or anything, but, you're in the shower and everybody's doing their thing and you peek. What's he got going on over there? And hey, I'm just being honest.
Meat gazer.
And we had this dude named, I'm not going to say his name. Well, I mean, he'd be proud, but he was a tripod, big black guy, and he had 3 legs. I mean, there's no other way to put it. And later on, like, everybody just kind of felt bad. No one wanted to shower next to the guy because it made you feel very inadequate. And
is it cold in here? Or is it just me?
Well, the damn water was cold too. It didn't help. And we got this redheaded Irish guy in our platoon as like a holdback. And my brother comes up to me because my brother was in my boot camp, right? That was a bad thing. I suffered for that. And he comes up to me later and he's like, hey, next time you're in the shower, look at Marshmallow. Because I can't remember the guy's name, but we called him Marshmallow. He was kind of fluffy. That's why he was being held back. And I'm like, dude, I don't want to look at him. And he's like, no, look at him. He's like, you got to take a peek. I was like, all right. So I get in the shower and I peek over, and all I see is a little red ball of fluff. Like, there's nothing else going on down there. Damn. And I'm like, dude, I feel so bad for him. But then, like, you've got tripod next to the little red ball of fluff. And it's like the palest white guy next to the
with freckles and red hair and stuff.
Yeah.
That's great.
I mean, he was fulfilling the stereotypes from hell. Oh, no, damn, I'm sorry. I don't know how we got on the topic of this, but it just came around.
And he's only had like 1 or 2 mouthfuls of light beer, and that's it. Yeah. And he's already losing it. So,
dude, I don't drink, man. It's like once a year for me, seriously.
So you're going to be under the table here in about 6 ounces.
I can still hold it pretty well. I mean, I'm still a big guy.
Okay,
I got a little
8
fat
ounces.
to put it in.
Kev, I know he got warmed up early.
Yep. I got this is number 2, so
nice. Nice. And behind Kev, you see Deadly Northern Lights. That is how big that map is. It takes up the entire room, including the whole wall.
I was going to ask you, is that like green screened behind you, or?
It's just an app.
Oh, so you just threw like a picture that just kind of fills in the background? Damn, I really got to get a green screen. That way you guys aren't confused by my lighting and everything that I got going on.
No, you can even do it without the green screen.
You can do it without a green screen. This is without.
Oh, you can do it in the Steam Yard thing?
Yeah.
XSplit.
We'll show you offline.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's secret.
Throwing in like a picture of boobs or something up there. All the focus. Or I can get like a little picture of Dan, put him in like a little leprechaun costume, and
oh, that'd be fun.
Oh, that would be hilarious.
I was
so John says, well, if you've never woken up naked in your neighbor's house, you have no story. And Von Deacon says to cut you off already. So we haven't even started, and they're already telling you to cut you off.
No, not yet.
John says it was I was basic training company XO. Don't go into kids. Don't go into kids on the rifle range or hand grenade range. That's true. Yeah, we'll go to that in a little while. And then John says it's a huge map, a very big map, and looks as interesting. But what?
Well, that's too big, probably, is what he's thinking. Or too complicated, or
never too big.
Well, you don't use all maps though in every scenario unless you're playing the campaign though.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
one mappers, and the rest are two mappers, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's only one, if I remember correctly. I think there's one that's 3 maps or something, and then the other one is the one campaign is the entire map. But I mean, you could just actually probably cut off Denmark altogether, and that'll save a little bit of map space because you've been talking about Denmark.
What game did you say it was?
Deadly Northern Lights.
Deadly Northern Lights. I have to remember that one.
Yeah, you gotta check it out. Kev's been doing a lot of coverage on it. He's done a lot on Under an Iron Sky as well, which is the first game by Fabrizio Vianello and Thin Red Line Games. And the second one is, well, the third one actually is Deadly Northern Lights. The second in the middle is the command control communication game, Less Than 60 Miles. And all 3 of them are fantastic. They're not cheap, but they're fantastic. And Kev's done a really great job in covering these games and bringing, information as to what the games are all about. So I'll let him talk about them because he's got the most experience, and he's the reason why I bought them.
Oh, it's my fault?
Yes, it is your
It's all
fault.
your fault.
I'm trying to decide because I want Under an Iron Sky, and I'm like, how many shoes or purses is that going to be?
Wait for reprint. You have to wait for a reprint now.
Yeah, just wait because I think he's going to do either a bundle with both games.
Oh, nice.
The 2 games in the module and do that as a bundle.
But that would be like $400, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think it might be a little bit less. Well, yeah, I'm sure it'll work it out.
$3.99.
Yeah, 399 euros. Yeah.
No,
I've got this rug underneath my desk. I'm trying to pull my chair forward, and it won't go. So
it's not the alcohol.
I'm like, come on, I'm trying to get close enough. But anyway, it's an involved game, right? It's not super simple by any means. So it takes a little bit of thought and a little bit of work. And I redid half of a turn just because I thought we could have done better, and I didn't really understand how air, naval, special forces, paratroopers and Marines and all that crap all worked together. Missiles, naval battles, air dogfights. I mean, you name it, it's in there, right? And that kitchen sink, there's a kitchen sink. It's awesome. Hot and cold water. So there's a lot of little things that you sort of got to keep track of.
That sounds kind of like World of War 85.
Bigger.
Yeah, so it's bigger than that, and it's more complex than that.
Even than the Frankfurt map? You know which one I'm talking about?
Oh, no, not size.
Not size-wise.
Oh, you mean like scope?
Scope, yeah.
Scope, but it's bigger than the Frankfurt map, dude. I mean, it's every bit of 8 feet long, and it's 1.5 maps wide and one section.
Oh no!
It's big. It's big, and then the Under an Iron Sky one that's 4 maps too, I think, and they can be linked. Not that you would, but they can be linked.
And it's the standard size map. Was it that like 32?
They're odd Euro sized things. They're big maps. Have you got the box there, dude? I can't.
I got the manual here.
What's the state for the maps?
42-page manual, and but it gives that centimeter thing. So I think it gives these.
Who knows that? Who knows?
It just says 5 maps, but I can tell you, I did in the video. I forget the exact sizes off the top of my head, but when I put it on my table to take a picture, I wanted to see if I can lay it all out to take a look at it, take a picture of it, and I did, and it filled up my entire table lengthwise, which is 78 inches, and the top part of the map, the final map, the top one, was barely hanging on the table, so I would need another little table to hold that on. It fit widthwise because I think the table is 44 inches, so I think it was a little short on the width, but lengthwise 78. So it's a big map.
Yeah, I've got one section I've got some Plex underneath, and then a piece of sort of masonite, whatever you call it, to buffer it up so it's on the edge. That's on the width side, but it's just one map length of that. That's that way.
Yeah,
that's why you need the big tweezers.
That's why you need the big tweezers. Exactly.
You need the rake. That's what you need at that point.
Yeah,
to be able to reach over to it.
The good thing is, though, it's only 2 maps wide, right? So it's long, but it's quite narrow. So 2 maps is easy to reach into. You don't have any issues getting to stuff. And the middle of the map, Sweden, and it's all crap terrain. No one goes there anyway, so you don't have to really worry about it.
No one cares about Sweden.
Nah.
Hey,
although
Sweden's doing good.
They have a lot of cool
women,
cool troops, cool little battalions of guys. So I'm tempted just to try and invade them just to see what happens, right?
Do they still have that cute little tank that pops itself
They
up?
do.
So
I think they do. 85, I think they do.
Yeah, it drops back down and everything. I like that little tank in World of Tanks.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys actually play that game or not.
No, I've not played it.
What is this? Very interesting, though. Kind of reminds me of some great secondary theater games. For some reason, German East Africa, von German word. Don't ask me why. That kind of interesting.
Leto Vorbeck.
Leto Vorbeck. Okay, yeah, there you go. That's what you're there for, Mo. Translation.
That's great.
That's what Dan Pencaldi does, and for us in the shows, he's always correcting everybody's speech, and I think that's why it was the S tank. That was what it was. John brought it up. Good catch, John. And that's why we have the audience participation, so they can pick up where we screw up. But
make us look smarter.
Exactly. So, and actually, the last video that you put out, you have this really cool setup, and this is exactly the type of thing I want to do. And I kind of do something similar, but not the way you do, because I'm in my dining room and I don't have like a gaming, locked in gaming area. You got the big whiteboard, and I'm like, oh, that's awesome. That's what I want. I want a giant whiteboard so I can write notes, because otherwise I'll forget, and so I write it in notebooks and stuff like that.
It helps. Well, it's a little magnetic whiteboard too, so I can put just piece of paper up there or whatever.
Yeah.
Just to help. Makes things easier, because, you get older and things start going in one ear and out the other, right? So,
but it makes solo playing so much more awesome, because you're like, what did I do last time? I don't know. Well, I know I made my move. So what was my plan? I don't know. Well, this is going to be fun. Hey, this is what I'm going to do. They'll never see it coming. And then you get over to the other side. What was I going to do?
Exactly.
No idea. So wow, I didn't expect that.
That's why I use a notebook, and I always make a note of the last thing I did, the next thing I want to do, and where I'm at in the game, so that when I come back to it, because sometimes I'll go off and play another game or do something different, and I might leave something for 3 or 4 days, and you come back to it and you're like, what is that? Where was I? And then if you can't remember, well, you might as well roll a die and pretend that something happened. So,
do you ever script any of your stuff, or you just always do it off the cuff?
For video?
Yeah.
Yeah, I never script stuff. I have like a guide.
You ever watch his videos? It's definitely not scripted.
You can't always tell. I mean, if some people will script it, but make it look like they haven't scripted it. You know what I'm saying?
So I have guidelines that I use for after action reports, that if I'm going to talk about what I like about a game, I have like 10 points I cover off on, and I don't ask me what they are. That's why I have the 10 points. Otherwise, I'll ramble on even longer. So I do that. But other than that, it's all off the top of the head, what I'm thinking, type of thing.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's the way to go with it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's more what people want to see, is like the actual in action, like what you're actually doing versus something that you've preset up. Like the only time I'll preset something up ahead of time is if I want to show a very specific aspect of a game that might take me a while otherwise to do. You know what I'm saying?
See, you do cool tutorials, and there you have to know exactly what you're doing, and you have to get it right, and it has to be succinct. Otherwise, you're going to lose people. So, I watched. It was funny because I know how to play World of War. Right, I've played 85 or 100 times. World of War 85 is just, there's some twists on things, and things are different. So I'm sitting there, I've watched some of your videos and stuff, and I was like, oh, okay, let me go back and fix that, because Nate said I'm doing it wrong. So I love those videos. They're sharp and clean, and you did a bunch for Lock and Load as well, which is cool.
Well, you know what's bad? Like, if I sat down with Lock and Load Tactical right now, I couldn't play it. I'd have to watch the damn videos to learn it. I did most games.
It's most games like that. I mean, seriously, there's all this talk about Euro games, hobby games. Well, I don't say just Euros, but I mean hobby games. and Wargamers, and the difference between them, and that's exactly it right there, is you could play Ticket to Ride or any, Pandemic or whatever. A brief cursory look at the rules, and you'll be like, oh, yeah, I remember I played this game. Bam, you're back into it. Yeah. Whereas a war game, it's like, crap, what do I do here? You're like, man, I'm an idiot. It's like, no, there's far more rules. That's why there's more of an investment of time and effort made for war games. And that's, I think, one of the big barriers to entry that hobby gamers have with war games.
Well, there's similarities. So many of them have like the same base structure, but they might have a different way that they're going to handle it. But that the game will have some type of supply lines or communication to worry about. That it'll have area of control. I'm talking about like hex and counter type games, right?
Yeah.
That generally you're going to flip the counter if they get reduced. Things like that. What do you got? Oh, you've got the next one, less than 60 miles.
Well, that's the middle one, yeah.
You know what I mean? But that's what throws me off, is the fact that there's this base structure. So there's certain things, movement points or supply or communication, that you have to worry about, but every game handles it in a different way. And sometimes I'll have it in my head from the previous game that I was doing X rule, and I'm trying to apply it into the game that I'm covering now, only to remember, oh wait, that was the other game. This game doesn't have spotting or doesn't have whatever mechanic it might be.
That happens all the time with me. I play so many games that they get blended up a little bit. But I think you made a great point. A guy who I used to play a few games with, either we mainly play on Vassal or we go to a pub and play. There's a pub south of town. We sit outside when the weather was kind of springtime, and we play Lock and Load Tactical, actually. And we'd sit down. The first few times we went to play, he said, okay, tell me the three things. Well, actually, he said two things, and I added one. He goes, tell me how you move and how you shoot. That's all I need to know, right? So that's most tactical games. How do I move? How do I shoot? And I said, and stay in supply. And he's like, oh, yeah, well, stay in supply for non-tactical. But really, all games have those three things in common, and they might have command. And really, if you look at those things quickly, and particularly if it's an SBI game or an older game or a game built off of SBI, it's all the same. That's all. So you don't really need to learn. All you need to learn is the exceptions. You look them up as you go. That's why most of the time I'll get through a game pretty quickly that way.
Yeah. The thing that does crack me up with some supply game, some supply rules in some games, the supply rule is so generic that it's like, as long as you could trace a route, any route,
anywhere
there, it's like, okay, I'm just going to ignore the supply rule, because unless you're totally, literally surrounded, you're going to have supply. You're going to be able to squeak supply in somehow. So
generally, unless the counter is completely surrounded on all six sides, that they're going to be able to get it at some point, regardless of what game it is. Although the ones that bother me are the ones that will split it up. And this is one of the things that I can't remember. I think it was Thunder in the East did this, but they've got like supply, and then they've got lines of communication.
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about.
That's a new thing. Everyone's doing that now.
Yeah, I don't really care for that, because they're so interconnected. They should just be one streamlined rule to worry about, rather than trying to make it two different things, to where you could potentially be in supply and then maybe not be in communication. It's like, no, just keep it streamlined. You're adding complexity without adding good depth, I guess is the way to put it.
Is there more flavor or more theme because you're in supply but you can't get commands?
Yeah.
Depends on what they really mean by lines of communication, right? So that can be a lot of different things to a lot of different games.
Is it Chrome for the sake of Chrome at that point?
Yeah.
Right.
And come on, by World War II, everyone had a radio for the most part. You could call in.
But they still had runners. Though.
Yeah, but we shot those people. Remember, it was in the movie Enemy at the Gates.
But I mean, they were still in use. So radio coverage was, and depending, this too, even with digital, radio coverage is still spotty in some areas. So you're going to have those blank spots. And then if you want to, model modern stuff, which is, Mitch is doing that with the Next War series, cyber is a big thing, because there's, 5 domains now. It's not just air, land, sea. There's space and cyber. So you have to consider those, because you have, satellites, and then you have your cyber war. And that's one of the things that I like and don't like about the interconnected battlefield of today. You can have your Blue Force Tracker, and you can say, oh yeah, I know where everybody's at. What do you do when the Blue Force Tracker is dead? or it goes on the haywire. Can you read a map? Can you understand where everybody is in the battle space around you? And can you react correctly? And, oh, you got sniper up now, huh?
Yeah. Keep going. You're doing good.
That was good. No, I like
that. Right. You're on the team. You're on a good team.
No, you're right, though. They still taught us that crap in boot camp. I mean, we still did land navigation courses, map reading courses, how to shoot an azimuth, how to read the compass properly, all that good stuff. And my brother and I actually really excelled at that. We did what was called a running azimuth, where one of us would stay stationary, the next guy would take off, keeping track of where we were going, and hit a certain point, he'd stop, the back guy would run past him, and we just crushed that course doing it that way.
Yeah, so that way, because otherwise you'll drift. I mean, I don't care who you are, you don't walk in a straight line.
Yeah.
Everybody drifts. You know, it may be like 2 or 3 degrees, but you go 2 or 3 degrees, and 2 or 3 degrees after, say, a click, that's 9 or 10 or 15 degrees, and that becomes huge when you get further out. So those are those things that, you know, when people talk about ASL and stuff, they'll try to model things like that, and it's like, okay, some people want that hyper realism, or I don't want to say hyper realism because it's not hyper realism, it's just that complexity, which is great, but
simulate you, right?
Yeah, it's like, if you really want to do that, go sign up.
I mean, the military's almost kind of drifting away from basic skills, because even in the Marines now, they shoot at the rifle range with ACOGs. Right?
No, they should not be doing optics. It should be iron sights only.
You've got to learn the basics. If you've got to shoot with an ACOG, what happens when that ACOG breaks? What happens when you trip going up the stairs and you don't have the optics? You need to have the fundamentals. You don't learn the Excel stuff until you've got the fundamentals in place.
Exactly. Well, at that point, too, if you're in CQB, it's going to be snapshots anyway. It's going to be almost like point shooting with a pistol. It'll be point shooting with a rifle at that point, because you're within 10 yards, you know, so it's going to be, you just point and shoot, you know, so you should know your weapon well enough for that. But when you go out to any distance, you better have co-witness iron sights, and you better know how to use them, because otherwise you're going to be SOL, and that's bad. You know, that's really bad, because optics are nice, but I mean, the optics were great. I know in Fallujah, they were saying that there was a complaint from the insurgents saying the Marines were executing guys because there was an inordinate amount of headshots while they were playing whack-a-mole. They kept popping their heads up. It's like, well, you're only going to give me your head, I'm going to take it off.
Do you know how easy it is to spot someone there?
You were there.
What is that boom, right?
Exactly.
Sorry.
The Marines were trained to shoot at our battle site 0's 300 meters. Now, generally, you're going to engage the enemy before that, but we shot accurately up to 500 meters in basic with iron sights. So if you're giving us optics and we're shooting at well under 300 meters, we're going to peg you, especially guys who are maintaining that training. Now, it'd take me a little bit to gear back up. I'm a little rusty now, but you know, guys in their prime, they're going to peg that shit, especially in closer quarters city type fighting situations.
Well, you know, fear has a way of motivating you to move a little quicker too. You know, it's like, crap, I'm not going to die. Yeah, I'm going to get on the trigger faster.
Who was the guy that said that? You don't win a war by dying for a country. You win a war by making the other guy die for his.
The other son of a bitch died for his country. Patton.
Okay.
Right.
Well, Patton had the right of it.
So what is this squirrel thing? I don't get squirrel. What?
Well, you were right in the middle of it. Something interesting, and I popped up sniper, right? So you're like, oh.
I have not watched that yet. And I missed seeing that video you were doing, but I really talk about, you know, that video you're doing. You were doing like a refereed, not even refereed, like you were GMing basically sniper, because you were having a live video, and then you were telling people to make the moves, and tell us how it went.
It was fun. Well, there was 14 or 15 guys on, but only 3 or 4 of them sort of put their hand up and said, oh yeah, I'll take a guy. And so I would ask them, well, I told them what the mission was when they're on a patrol. And then I said, hey, okay, now you've got to go from A to B, and it's going to be an ambush. So you'll know when it's an ambush when I start saying stop, and you're dead. But right. But so they would, I would ask them, well, do you want to go left? Do you want to go right? Do you want to stay on the left-hand side of the road, right-hand side of the road? Do you want to, there are all these different commands in sniper. And I just basically said, do you want to be prepared to take a shot? Do you want to kneel or lay down? or you just want to keep moving and stuff like that. So it was real casual, and we didn't go through the uber technical advanced stuff in Sniper. We just played, and it was just good getting people to make decisions for me so that I could play it by myself. And I had written out kind of basic orders for all the guys that were doing the ambush. So all the orange counters behind me, the allied soldiers and the other guys you can't see because they're not on the map. They're on the other map. There's 2 maps for each person, 1 map for each person. Then I would say, okay, stop. You got a line of sight here. There's an opportunity fire. The guy fires at you, but no effect. And then here he is, and I would put him on the map for them to then decide what they wanted to do with it. So it was I just like trying to experiment with different ways to play games, right? And let's use all the mediums and writing and taking photographs, and I just love doing that. So it was fun.
Cool. No, that sounds fun as hell. Yeah,
it's fun. I still got it set up. I need to get a few guys who are more engaged, because this is literally an off the cuff thing with whoever turned up. There weren't any sort of the regulars that turn up for live streams, so I had to kind of sort of cajole people to be.
Here's an idea with that you can, we should do this seriously. Me, you, Nate, we get together, and just like we're doing now, and we get a live thing of you running this. And we have Nate runs a squad, I run a squad, and the squads are the guys in the chat. And we all kind of throw out different things we want to do, but we have to kind of organize it a little bit where we can't just have.
I'd be down for that. And there's all sorts of different games we could use for that. We could use lock and load. We could use something old like this sniper thing. Yeah, it'd be
kind of neat. You can Nate, we'll have a little draft. Like it's like, okay, well, hey. I'm going to take John on my squad, and Nate's going to pick somebody else, and then we'll write it down who's in his squad, and we'll say, okay, boom. It's like, oh well, you know what? Someone just died. Hey, John, sorry, you're out, man. That's you. You're going to have to wait back until we respawn you or something.
So
respawns, right?
What is it like? They can see the map and they just tell you go forward, go left, go right.
Yeah, we would just give me share screen, and then you guys are on to one side or off screen or whatever the case may be. And I think the resolution would be fine. I don't know. I'd have to check it out, but.
And then John already, he's on my squad because he says Leroy James.
Yeah, there you go.
That sounds like it'd be fun to try.
Oh my God, Leroy.
Something like that would be fun as hell, because seriously, we can break it into squads, and then we can say, okay, Leroy, that's you. What are you going to do? We can actually assign names to the people and stuff like that. Is it individual people or squads?
Snipers, individuals.
So individual, that would be perfect. Then you can actually assign a counter to each player, and it might be a little difficult to track, but we'd have to just kind of
work it out,
figure out a way to. I mean, it's not like we're gonna have 100 people on playing. I mean, it's not like it's a massively multiplayer game, but that would be kind of fun.
Right. Well, you could use Vassal and just do a screen share, or we could, just point my little surface thing here at the map, whatever. It's all good. Either way.
That would be cool. Now the cool thing about doing, it would be really neat if it was like lock and load tactical, where we can see the explosions and the shots going down range.
That'd be fun.
That would be fun as hell. That would be so fun. So you guys up for that? You guys want to do that? Everybody in the audience?
Yeah, we'll have to see if we can set that up.
So Michael says he played 2 different double-blind refereed naval games, and it was fun. And John says he's going to be checking the ammo cases. But yeah, no, I love the idea of you doing that, because that's something that, generally when it comes to content creators, it's like, hey, watch me play. Not, hey, I'm going to run a game that you're going to play. And that was really a cool idea. I thought that was pretty interesting and real engaging to get people involved. And unfortunately, I missed it because I wanted to at least check it out and see what was going on with it. And of course, then I'd be like, hey, just run me up the middle.
I'm
the
going.
jackass that's going. I'm gonna just run up the middle.
Yeah, we can sacrifice a Mo to find out where all the bad guys are.
Yeah, get mowed down. You can imagine him ragdolling his way up the street, right?
Exactly, and that's why it's called getting mowed down.
Yeah,
mowed down, right?
Mo's the one that he has to walk in front of the Humvees and the tanks with the minesweeper looking for the mines as they're going.
Oh yeah. And it's like, is there any snipers out here? Snipers, are you out here? Are you out here? Come on, shoot me. Come on, come at me, bro.
Did I tell you?
That would be fun.
Did I tell you I actually had a sniper shoot at me once?
Really?
Well, a couple times, but once where he was literally gunning for my head, he just missed. I was out at a retrans site in the middle, and I'm not trying to change the subject, but just telling a story.
No, it's cool. Good story. Tell us.
We were out at what was called a retrans site, so I was in the very center of the city of Fallujah, and we had a little base camp set up, and I was maintaining a Humvee that was helping to relay comm signals out throughout the area of operations. So we would stay out there for a week or two, rotate back to the main base camp, and then another group will come out. But while you're out there, it's just you and another guy, so you really didn't have a whole lot to do. You'd read a lot of books or play a Game Boy or stuff like that. Not a whole lot to occupy the time, and since we were worried about our stuff, we didn't have to do like a guard duty, so we had others guarding for us. The problem is there was a walled compound that we were in, so people on the ground couldn't see us, but people up above in the buildings around us could see us. And we didn't worry about it too much, but when we had to use the bathroom, we had the porter shitters to go take a dump, but if we had to take a leak, we weren't walking all the way over there. So we'd just walk around the corner of our building, take a leak, come on back in.
You told me this. I remember this. Yeah.
You remember this?
Yeah.
So
Tell me.
I walk around the corner of the building. My buddy's inside asleep, and I'm just pissing on the side of the building, and I hear the crack of a shot fire off, and the impact hits like right here next to my head. And I remember I'm like walking on air, trying to pull my pants back up. No. Kind of imagine a cartoon where somebody's like legs are kicking, because I know he was getting ready to fire again. I got my ass tucked around back inside. I knew he couldn't see me where I was, and I had radio, so I could call this shit in. Called in exactly where he was. I hear the response team go in. A couple minutes later, pow, 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 pow. Problem solved. Didn't have to worry about taking a leak. Although, from that moment on, I went around the other side of the building.
I was just gonna ask you: Did you end up going to the porta shitter, or did you just find a new corner to pee on?
No, that was farther away. I would wait to go at nighttime if I had to go there, because generally they didn't have optics, so they couldn't see us as well. I remember another funny one about being out there is a buddy of mine. We were watching a portable DVD player, and I don't know what blew up. Something blew up, whether it was an ID or something. Whatever it was close enough that when the concussion of the blast hit us, it knocked us both flat. But we had gotten into some Haji whiskey, so we were about 3 sheets to the wind, and we're just laying there laughing. And, you hear the response team go out and shots fired and all that stuff, and we probably should have done something, but we were so drunk at that moment that we were just laughing, put our seats back, and just went back to watching.
It's probably better you didn't do anything at that point.
No, yeah, we definitely shouldn't have been doing anything. Well, it was, if I remember right, it was the 4th of July, or it was around that time period, because I remember we had
got a free show.
Yeah,
got a free show. Yeah,
it was fireworks always while we were down there. More often than not, it was the most boring post. You would just sit there, read a book. Nobody bothered you. There was no brass. There was no hire enlisted to worry about. So it was a real cushy gig, but those few moments of excitement will pucker your asshole. And
who the hell says cushy gig and Fallujah in the same sentence but Nate?
Yeah, I was going to say, really.
Relatively speaking, it was a cushy gig.
Well, yeah, because it was comm stuff, so it was a little bit off the exact front.
Yeah, I mean, no millennial is gonna think it was a cushy gig. They don't have Netflix and fast food delivered and shit, but you
guys didn't have Burger King.
You get medals. You get medals. They would like that part. And you get ribbons and things to put on your fruit salad and stuff. So you get all those things. They'd love that.
Officers get those. See,
Okay.
you think I'm joking? The officers would
Put themselves in for anything.
they would put themselves in for a NAM or a Bronze Star or
Really?
whatever bull.
That's
Yes,
so wrong.
my brother earned, like, we all agreed that he should have been put in for a Bronze Star for a combat action he was involved with. He saved a lot of Marines' lives. 4 reports got turned into hire. Only one actually got pushed up the chain of command, and it was the lieutenant's. And the lieutenant got a NAM for it. And the lieutenant didn't do shit, like nothing. My brother took care of the problem. That's the
Right.
problem, is because these, and I'm not trying to hate on officers. I mean, they do their job too, but some officers are very worried about their career and they want to be promoted, and it looks good having
Looks good in your jacket.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
having
Yeah.
that chest candy, you know. I actually told a staff sergeant one time. This was real close to when I was getting out of the Marines, and I think I was Lance Corporal still, or had just picked up Corporal, and he was giving me hell. And the only medal he had was that one National Defense Medal that every service member got, the Stay-at-Home Medal. And I had multiple rows, including a Purple Heart, and he was giving me hell for something. And I told him, like, just climb up my stack of shirt candy and kiss my ass. And walked off. I mean, I was done with his shit at that point, and he tried to go up to my gunny and, like, talk shit about it. And the gunny's like, well, he's got a point.
Yeah.
You got nothing.
Yeah.
It's almost like Gunny Highway. Remember Gunny Highway and Sergeant Major Chizu in Heartbreak Ridge? He's like, oh, it's so funny how they snap to when they see that itty bitty ribbon, you know, and he talking about the Medal of Honor, you know, it's like, well, that's not an itty bitty ribbon. That's a pretty huge ribbon. But John
Right.
says here, my closest danger was as a tank platoon leader. My company XO decided he needed to beat up on me when we were parked for the night. So, John, you got to expand on that, man. Can't just hear that and leave it at that. It says he spent 3 years trying to get out. So you were a tank platoon leader, huh? And ones I'm going to assume.
You know that shit happens, though. I mean, guys get taken behind the berm, or some LT decides to handle things.
Counseling.
Yeah.
Yeah, in-house works well.
There's so many bad people, bad eggs in the military. I mean, it would blow people's minds. I mean, a lot of good eggs, a lot of good people.
I think it's a different society. It's just that there's similar bad eggs, similar amount of bad eggs, I guess you could say, as you do in the civilian world, but it's a different society, different societal mindset. And it's one of those where it's almost kind of like hockey in a way. Whereas like one of the things I love about hockey is, if you got a problem with somebody, let's drop the gloves and settle it. We're done. We'll chuck and then we'll sit for 5 ice and knuckles. We'll go back to playing. In the military, it's the same way. This dude needs to tune up. Hey, take him out there, give him some 4-wall counseling. It's all over and done with, and that's it. You move on. You don't carry it on. Civilian world, it's like people just sniping each other all the time. It's like, I think it would be a little better.
Shit, right?
Yeah, passive aggressive, exactly. I think it'd be a little bit better. It's like if people were held more to account, and it's like, you gonna talk smack? Well, you may have to own up to it, and if you do, people I think would toe the line a little bit, better, and say, well, there's some real world repercussions here, so maybe I won't talk as much smack.
Right. Let's all put the puffy gloves on and let's go smack at each other, right?
Well, you talk wrong to the wrong person, you get popped in the mouth.
Mm-hmm.
It might teach you not to do that shit. But it's not even like that in the Corps anymore. Hell, right before I got out, if we needed to discipline a Marine of a different race, we needed to make sure that we had someone else there with us to vouch for whatever, NJP or whatever thing that was going on.
Follow proper counseling protocol.
Yeah.
Rather than you gave him a talking to,
Yeah, I'd much rather, if it were me, right? Like if I screwed up, I would much rather someone take me behind a berm, pop me upside the head, say, shut the hell up, do your shit. Roger that. I'll respect that,
Right.
I'm not going to respect the sergeant that's like, stop talking back to me. I'm going to tell the lieutenant.
I'm trying to imagine a sergeant doing that. I'll be back in a second, guys.
Yeah. But I mean, it's one of those things where, it's like that everywhere, unfortunately. And I think it would be I mean, there's a time and a place for all that stuff, but I think a little bit more respect would be people would give more respect to each other if there was repercussions for that. I'm not saying that we should have fights every 5 minutes, but what I'm saying is just the understanding that there's repercussions. Just kind of like we'll turn it back to war games. Okay, before
sorry, I've knocked us off of that a couple times. My apologies.
No, sorry, no, I'll turn it back to war games. If I know that now he's got whiskey, squirrel. No, but if you turn it back to war games, you can just run a stack of guys into a hex, and you don't care because it's just cardboard. Right. But at the same time, if you make it real by saying, well, if you do that, there's instant repercussions, you're going to lose a scenario. So now it kind of makes you think twice about committing those. So that's how you can take a real world situation and kind of spin it into war games. And, I say all the time, we're just killing cardboard. But if that's the thing that I love about tactical is you get more attached to your units, I think, because there's more of an immediate response if you lose them.
Yeah, more of a connection.
Yeah, exactly. I think I was talking to, who was it? I think it might have been Tom Holland. We were just talking about attachment to units or counters and how a game can evoke that feeling. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting that when I play the TCS system, the Tactical Combat System, that's for you, Dan, in case you're watching, is that all those platoons, particularly the Japanese versus the Marines on Guadalcanal, Mantanacao, and all that sort of stuff, Bloody Ridge, at some point you just go, I can't push these Marines in here anymore. All my guys are dying, right? Or you're trying to push the big red one onto Omaha Beach, and mm-hmm. I stopped. I was like, I can't do this anymore. This is just, it's like industrialized killing. It's not, It wasn't fun, it wasn't or interesting for that matter. So,
I found, strangely enough, that if a game was more modern or had a desert setting or had Marines in it, that I would almost think twice about the decisions I was making because it felt more real mm-hmm. to me,
right.
Especially like Phantom Fury, because it was set, right where I was.
Right.
And that, really stuck with me on what decisions I was making, because I had in the back of my head, still that training thing that it would impact that, but it was much less applicable the farther back like a game went. Like World War II games, I don't feel that way about because I don't have any personal connection to it.
Well, it's the same thing, whether it's, I kind of feel the same way, but it's the same thing regardless. Once you play a game, if you get into it, you try to put yourself in the commander's role at the tactical level, especially because these are squads or individuals like in Sniper or right. something like that. You don't want to see that guy go down. And especially if there's any progression, which is one of the things I do like about progression, where you can get like experience points and you can kind of build on the guy because you don't want to lose that guy. You're like, damn, all that experience gone. And if you look at it and say, oh, yeah, all that experience gone, but man, that's some 21-year-old dude that's gone. So you can kind of, if you put it in that respect, it kind of really does give you a little bit better appreciation of the platoon commander, their role, or the company commander's role. And that's where you kind of go, wow, this is actually a little more, if you look at it that way, you go, wow, it's a little more serious and a little heavier than I thought, but in the end, it's still a game and you're only killing cardboard. So that's
right,
good.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I think you can build connections with stuff, but mm-hmm. you can keep in mind that it is a game at the end of the day. But it's interesting you mentioned Phantom Fury. I was talking to one chap who does some videos, and his name escapes me right now, but he's a veteran and was in the Marines, actually was a captain in the Marines. And he said he won't play Phantom Fury because he was in Fallujah and too raw, too tough for him. So
sure.
I found that, that was quite moving to me that he had that visceral an experience. But your point about getting connected, it's kind of a little bit different when it's ancients, right? Because it was so far away and so different, or guys with muskets or whatever. But even then, I think I can still sort of imagine being a Roman legionnaire and standing there with your shield and your pilum and throwing that sucker out and then drawing your sword and having at it with these guys. And bashing and pushing and shoving, and that took some guts to stand to like that face to face.
That's incredibly personal combat. Incredibly personal.
Kev, the point you're making is making me think of that movie, The Last Castle. Did you ever see it?
No.
Had
Robert Redford, right?
Yeah, Robert Redford and the fat guy from The Sopranos in it.
Sopranos, Tony Soprano, yeah.
Yeah. And the Tony Soprano character, they're both in the military, army prison, but Tony has a military collection, bunch of old stuff like Revolutionary War, Civil War, that type of stuff.
Right.
And Robert Redford's character makes the comment that, to you this is a neat memorabilia piece, but to someone else this cost some poor sucker his life. So he had a much more personal connection to it. He knew that it wasn't just an art piece, that was an actual weapon of war, that was a bullet that was fired at someone. That was a weapon used in anger at some point. It's not just a showpiece to put behind your glass.
Right.
Sure.
I was just looking at I was just reading the précis on the summary on the movie. It looks interesting.
Yeah, cool. I'm surprised you haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's good.
I don't watch a lot of movies. I try to, but never get around to it.
And then John says he really wants to try DBG Warfighter. He thinks it's what he would really want in a tactical game and use miniatures. And you can use miniatures. They have with Warfighter. And Warfighter is actually a really fun game.
It is, but it isn't what I would really call tactical.
It's more tactical than you think, than you expect.
You're talking about the modern version or the World War II one?
I mean, either one.
Either, yeah.
I mean, they both operate off the same principle.
Yeah.
Same engine, yeah.
I think it's almost its own category. When I think tactical, I think more Hex and Counter. And don't get me wrong, I love Warfighter. I've covered the shit out of it. But, I don't know, with Warfighter, you've only got, stay there, go back, go forward. So you're on like a 2D plane versus...
Yeah, it's a little more on rails.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get a little frustrated with you found an ammo crate full of bazookas. But I'm moving towards the enemy.
Yeah, that's the video game aspect.
So it's a great beer and pretzels game.
Yes.
But it's certainly not Lock and Load or ASL or Band of Brothers or Combat Commander or any of those. It's good fun, right? I enjoy picking out the bits for the guys and
exactly. This is how guys accessorize, right?
Yes.
We pick weapons, we pick optics,
What's my battle rattle?
And Michael says games that have continuing missions for a group of men, such as B-17 or Ambush or others, you get attached to them. It's very true.
Yeah. I've never had a plane last long enough to get attached to the guys, though.
No, I'm a bad air guy. I'm just like, throw it all at them. I played. It was also the first time playing the advanced game of Next War at Consum Dallas. Me and another guy, we were learning it, so we kind of co-op played it for the first turn.
Right.
And we're like, okay, what do we do for air? We're like, commit it all. Screw it. Let's throw it all up there. We had this giant furball, and then we were like, oh, we probably should have held back some stuff for strikes. So let's retcon that. Pull some other units back for some strikes, which we did after. But you don't know until you learn, and that's what another aspect of wargaming that. You and I have talked about this, Kev, about some people being a little stingy on the rules. It's like, you know what, a lot of war games, you really just need to sit down and kind of co-op it a little bit, work together because of the complexity and how everybody learns.
You mean like a rules Nazi type deal?
Kind of, like people that are like, no, that's not the way it is. Like, are we in a competitive situation or are we in a let's have fun situation?
Let's just work it out together, right?
Yeah,
you know what? The guys I play with the most, we have this thing where we're helping each other decide what to do each turn, and or as they're doing stuff in the turn and conducting actions and stuff. And I'll say, oh, why are you doing that? I'll go, have you thought about this? And oh yeah, what about that? And then as it gets closer towards the getting to the point where we're now all comfortable with the game, it's like, okay, now we're playing. And you go, oh dang, I should have done that. Oh well, too bad. Sucks to be you, right? It starts to get a little more real, a little more serious.
Yeah. Well, I mean, once you all know the rules pretty equivalent, you're pretty equivalent on the rules. That's when you can say, yeah, sucks to be you, dude. You made the wrong move. Yeah, now you're gonna feel the pain.
Yeah, now I'm bringing all my guns. Right.
Exactly. And if the guy is, or if the player has played with you enough, they'll be, oh, this is gonna be painful.
Yeah.
But
Well, usually I'm usually the one feeling the pain with the guys I play with. They're all
yeah, me too. Because I'm pretty much one of those. I either run up the gut or I'm just gonna be like, no, I'm standing here. Like when we played Stalingrad 42, I'm like, no, we're not pulling back. We should pull back. Nah. I'm gonna go with. I'm going to go good Soviet. I'm going to stand in place. We die.
This is not a bad Soviet.
I try.
You can make a good commissar.
Exactly. Well, that's what we were doing. It was the whole stand your ground, with the I forget the exact rule in S42, but there's certain situations where you don't not one step back. That's the rule.
Right.
And it's not one step back thing where you don't come back. And have you played that, Nate? Gotta play it. Really good game.
So what? There's actually a rule in there that if your guys have to retreat, they basically die.
They can in certain instances they can, and also past a certain turn limit. I think past turn 6 or something like that. And it's the not one step back. It's where the NKVD is waiting for you. They're just gonna be like, hey, you step one back, bam, we're gonna kill you.
You can get shot by them or shot by me now.
Exactly. So it's pretty cool.
I just don't get that as a good battle strategy. You're gonna get shot. Doesn't matter which direction you go, you're gonna get shot. Stay motivated. Love your country.
Yeah.
Exactly. Die for Mother Russia. Von Deegan says, Mo, that's why I like LNL Nations at War Compendium mini campaigns. You get invested over multiple scenarios. World War II really is more interesting.
Not enough campaigns in tactical systems. I'd like to see more campaigns.
Progression, and also another thing about that, not only progression, but the replacements, especially in high attrition, things like World War II and stuff like that.
There was a guy that built a campaign system, not a system, a set of campaigns for Great Battles of History. So you could go through all the battles in sequence of, say, Alexander, and he worked out, like, if you lost this much, you would get this many replacements, and these guys would get, the Persians got everything because they had a zillion guys.
Sure.
But as you went along, your units got to be replenished, but sometimes they wouldn't be. So you had this sort of degradation. So you didn't start Guatemala with everything, which is kind of cool. So I love that sort of stuff at that scale. But
it almost sounds like BattleTech. Like if you play BattleTech, I don't know if either of you guys have played BattleTech, but you have salvage at the end of your battles.
Right.
So like you go out there and you salvage the mechs and you salvage the parts and you can reuse the armor, the weaponry, all that stuff. So it's kind of like that. So there's a persistence, and there's a reason to, I'm breaking contact. I'm done. I don't want to lose too much. And that's one of the other things that I wish that more war games would do is encourage breaking contact, because how many times in real war do you pretty much fight to the last man, or say in the games we do, but in games we'll fight that way, but in the real world they don't. Whereas there's a time to say, what, we're not in a good tactical position here. Let's get the hell out, And how could you do that in a war game though, and make it an incentive for a gamer to do that other than in a campaign situation?
I think some games have had something for it. There was the Undaunted Normandy. Recently, I covered that, and I think one of the rules he had in there, because that game's so simplistic that it doesn't have something that specific, but it has the thing about the sides being pinned, and that's when you don't have any riflemen out. So you might still have troops on the board, other different types of troops, but if neither side had riflemen, then you're considered pinned and could end the game. I think that kind of simulates that effect that you're talking about, that you hit a certain point of losses where we're gonna pull back. We're gonna call it quits at this point. I would like to see that in more games, though.
How many times in World of War 85 have you taken your 11 platoons of Soviet tanks and just like run them down till there's 2 left, and you're like, oh look, I won. Right.
Well, the funny thing is that is, if you look back on Soviet doctrine, which, when I was in the military, that was the Soviet threat was the big thing. And wave attacks, that was their doctrine. Yeah. We're going to throw.
Soviets were a threat in the 50s?
Yes, they were.
49.
From 46, actually, 45 they were onwards, they were a threat. Yeah. But no, not the 50s. I was in after the 50s, 60s. No, but I'm not that old. But the interesting thing about the wave attacks, though, is speaking of 50s and 40s, T-34s were still in use in the 80s. Yeah. T-34 is a fantastic tank. They throw 34s at you, then the 54s, 55s, and the 62s, and the 64s, then the 72s. They would just wave attack the hell out of you. Right. We're going to just make you throw ammo downrange. We don't care that these tanks are going to die and these crews are going to die. We don't care. We're going to just throw all the stuff at you. We're going to hit you in the waves and wear you down. So in World War 85, to your point, Kev, it would be like, I don't care. I'm going to think like a Soviet. I'm going to just want to throw all my guys at it. Whereas
if the scenario was big enough, that works, right? I think. Mm-hmm. But if you've got one company or one battalion, you blow it up, you're done, right? So anyway, you were going to say about NATO.
Yeah, I mean, from a NATO standpoint, you're going to want to husband your forces a little more. Right. You're going to have your, for the Army, you're going to have your cav out front. They're going to be like the meat puppets that are going to just say, oh, hey, here's the enemy. And they're going to try to dish some damage and then be beat out of dodge. And what's that?
Did you just say meat puppet?
Meat puppet, yeah. Bullet sponge meat puppet. Well, that's essentially what they are. I mean, they're out there to early warning. They're a human early warning system. This is what they really are. They're going to engage first. They're going to delay as long as they can, so that way the main body is going to be ready for the attack, and then you can get these guys out. Hopefully, you can have your pre-plot artillery and airstrikes if you have any. You can get that out downrange, so that way you can get these guys back, and they could fall back through friendly lines, and then you can have your main body there to deal with the onslaught of the main assault. And it's just. It sounds cruel and it sounds cold, but that's the way it's discussed in the military. And in a game, you'll look at it the same way because you're killing cardboard. You don't care.
I mean, he's right.
Tony Costa's like, back in my day.
when I was a lad.
When I was a wee lad.
That's more like what Steve would say.
Oh, Steve. Steve Overton?
Yeah.
Well, back in my day.
Don't get me wrong. I love Steve.
Oh, I love Steve too. We had a good interview at Consum Dallas, and I finally, after all these years, I finally got to sit down and play as Red Eclipse. Now,
you hadn't played that?
I had not. I didn't get a chance at WBC, and I finally sat down to play it, and Kev messaged me right that day. I was like, I just played Steve's game. He's like, oh, so what'd you think? And we were going back and forth. He's like, well, it sounds like it's changed in a good way, because he had played an iteration, I think, what was it, 2 or 3 years ago?
Yeah.
So he played an earlier iteration. So it was different than what I played. And I told him what I had played, and he's like, oh, that sounds like there's good strides forward. So, and again, that's all the development cycle of a war game. You play something and 2 or 3 years, it's totally different. And you talk to somebody else who plays and you're like, I really didn't think it was that good, or it didn't connect with me as much. And then you hear what they do and you go, wow, that's actually pretty cool. Yeah, that sounds better. They took some really good big strides forward.
Well, it was definitely rougher in its state at that point.
It was.
You could tell there was a gem behind the rough. You know what I'm saying?
When I played it, go ahead. Sorry, Ned.
The only thing I worried about is that he would get, because it is his baby, he's been working on it for so long, that he would get overly wrapped up in the perfection of it and never put it out. You know what I mean? That he would constantly try to tweak forever. But I think it's getting close to actual go time for him for it.
I think someone has a boot up his ass to make it happen. So.
Well, I kind of, I was talking to him at WBC, and I remember that was 2 years ago, Nate? 3 years?
A couple years.
3 years. Now.
Coming up.
3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be WBC this year, but because we've been that's like the ongoing, it's kind of like a joke now at this point. The ongoing thing is, oh, we're going to do this WBC. Unfortunately, I don't think there's going to be WBC.
No.
But we had, talked at WBC about like, just get it done, man. Just get it done, get it out. And finally, I think now he's got that forward. And like you were saying, he's got the boot in the butt and finally making it happen, which is good because if you take too long, it's things will pass you by.
Well, I think that releasing it sooner rather than later would be a good thing for him because World at War 85 did so well, and this is set in the same time period, so it's almost like the tactical version, of World at War 85 in a little way. I mean, they're very much separate games, but riding off the success of World at War 85 would be a good idea for them, since that one did very, very well.
That's very true. And, before we go any further, I wanted to bring up something Stigler brought up. He says, I would be very careful that a tactical war game didn't become an RPG. Progression is getting awfully close to D&D's experience points. But he's got a good point. But at the same time, how else can you have a campaign without progression? And that ties back to the game that Kev's got back behind him right now with the cadre rule in Deadly Northern Lights and Under an Iron Sky, where you're untested, untried, then you get into combat and you can either go down or go up.
Right.
I don't care if they put experience points in there. I don't care what they call them. I like the idea. I like the idea of some type of progression. I think it would be awesome to have an ambush style system where your guy goes from private to corporal to sergeant. His base stats go up, if you will. He has a better target acquisition,
right?
Better stamina.
Right. If you're down at that scale, I think that's perfect, right?
Yeah.
Why not? I think if there are ways that you keep people engaged with the system and they play it more and they want to buy more modules because they want the guy to keep going, then you should do that. But if it's a system where I guess when I would look at World of War 85, I don't want a character in that. I might want a unit or a formation that I am leading or managing, and maybe there's a camp. I was just more interested in the campaign aspect of running from battle to battle to battle, and then having the replacements come in, and then it's more like what's behind me. It's more like Deadly Northern Lights, but at a more tactical scale.
I'm telling you right now. I'm going to talk to Dave about with the World of War 85 and the whole. There's more modules. I want to see a Sharps rifles in there.
Are you talking about like the 1800s Sharps rifle?
Yes, that you are correct. That's the Napoleon era. But I want to have Kev Sharp be in charge of Sharps rifles. That'll be the unofficial nickname of the unit. It'll be a real unit.
Funny.
But it would be kind of cool to have a Sharps rifles in the World of War 85 universe. What's that?
I'm going to text Dave right now while we're talking and tell him that's not going to happen.
No,
he already gives me enough shit for that, for wanting the M1 the M1s in there. He's like, we put the M1s in because Kevin complained.
The M1A1?
Yeah.
There is actually a game that does.
A1s. I think it was A1s.
Yeah, the A1s. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Nate. What's that?
You two girls done flirting with each other now?
Yeah.
Well, Nate, we can have Nate's Night Riders or something like that in there. No, I just thought Sharps rifles would be cool because of the, as you said, the Napoleonic era story.
No, I'm thinking of a different time period. I'm thinking of the movie True Grit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where Matt Damon's character is talking about his Sharps rifle, the Sharps carbine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
right.
The Sharps carbine makes a good rifle. Oh, is when he's shooting it, but that's the rifle I was thinking of. But no,
you're thinking of the wrong True Grit, though.
No, I don't like the older stuff.
That's a good True Grit. That's a good True Grit, though. I gotta admit, I love the old one.
It was good, but John Wayne. How do you not like John Wayne?
I was never a big John Wayne fan.
What?
I don't know.
Okay, Nate. That's just.
It's a little before my time. Like something from the '80s and on, I'm good with. Rock on.
'80s and on.
But the '70s and before, we're talking about before my time is too old. I can't get into it.
So wait. I just had a horrible thought. I'm thinking 80s. Okay, well that's not that far long ago. That's 40 years.
40 years.
It's close. I'm 38.
That's like,
oh wow. Well,
That's what I'm
40
saying.
years. What happened?
I'm not a
What
puppet
happened?
anymore. I'm old. Look, there's gray in here.
Oh,
I wake
no,
up
you're not
now and
old.
I creak and I pop and I snap. It's not fun. I miss being
That
young.
that starts in your 30s, and then stuff starts to bend and really get painful in your 40s.
Shit.
Shit starts to permanently break in your 50s.
It started in my 20s. After that damn landmine, my back
Well,
pops every damn day, dude.
yeah, well, that's a different
That's a
situation.
little different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you had
You know-
outside forces there.
You know you're not supposed to step on those things, right?
No, we drove over it. I don't know.
Drive better.
Same difference,
I
buddy.
don't know if you can see the tattoo, but my brother actually took a picture of it, of the Humvee, and I got it tattooed
Oh.
on. The little saying is, "Though I drove through the valley of the shadow of death, I still fear no evil." Made a little amendment for what happened with us. But yeah,
I
that
That's
fear
all.
no evil because I woke up after.
yeah. I woke up to the well. I'm sure she's probably fugly, but at the time it was just this beautiful Navy nurse. She's like, "Hi, how are you feeling?" I'm like, "Better now."
Hey, you know the old saying, man, in the Corps: never look down on the corpsman because you never know when you're going to look up at one.
Yeah.
Right. There you go.
Well, the chief that was taking care of me was a good guy. He was one of our poker buddies because we had a little underground gambling crew where we go play cards, and he was one of the guys that
You
would
seem to have a
play.
lot of friggin' fun in Fallujah, dude.
Yeah, you've got nothing to do besides go out and run missions. So you go run missions and then you come back, and you've got time on your hands. So what do you do to fill that time? You gamble and you drink. It's not like there's a lot of women. There's no clubs. There's nothing else to do.
You're not supposed to drink over there. Jeez, what the hell, man?
We got it from the Hajis. They're the ones that were bringing our passports.
That's a question I have for you now that we're on the subject. How is the Haji whiskey?
I've been trying to find some of it. They
How
got
is
me
it, though?
this whiskey from Lebanon. It was some of the best stuff I'd ever tasted, and I've
Really?
never been able to find it. Yeah,
Really?
it was.
I tried
excellent.
some Indian whiskey just a few months ago at a Christmas party. Somebody says, "Oh, you got to try this," and I tried it, and everybody was staring at me like, "What's his response going to be?" Like, "Holy shit, this tastes like something out of the morgue." It literally tasted like formaldehyde. It smelled like it too, and I was like, "Man, this is terrible." It was just terrible. And I just put it down. I was like, "That's terrible." And they were like, "Yeah, it's from India." I was like, "Wow, I really feel bad for the Indian people. You know, if this is what they got for whiskey, because it was terrible." So that's why I was like, "How's the Haji whiskey? Is it good?"
The stuff I had was good. We
What
had
do you
to,
recall
yeah. Well, we had to be a little
back in the
little
day?
choosy on who
Back
we
in the day.
took stuff from, because some of these guys could have been bad hands. They could have been
Right.
poisoning us or something like that. So the only people we would buy from is our translators, our terps, because they ran missions with. We trusted those guys because they were actually out there running and gunning with us.
Yeah,
The rest
right.
of them we didn't trust, like as far as we could throw them.
Well, it was also instant justice. If they did something stupid, it's like next time they were out on a mission, they probably wouldn't come back.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, he'd
Here's a
get
good,
friendly
that's a
fire.
good question. That's a good question.
What?
What was the one that was up there before about OST? Because that's a good point about OST,
Oh, you
about
missed
the
it.
casual.
Yeah,
rates.
OST uses casualty points to reduce enemy
Yeah.
impulses, which is really a good idea. And OST 3 is top shelf. I've not played OST 3 yet. I played OST 1 in Stalingrad. I've not played the third one with the Marine Corps.
No, I didn't order that one. I got the other two. I like it.
I thought it was a good system. I really did. The only two drawbacks I had to OST was one, at least on the first one. I don't know if the second one changed it up at all. I don't think so, because I see that they've got some sort of neoprene like boundary markers that they use, but there is you get this giant gorgeous map, like the Stalingrad map. It's gorgeous. But you have to put out the little counters to say, okay, here's your boundary. It's like, no, I got this gorgeous big map. I want to fight on the whole thing. You know, that was the only thing. It's like, yeah, it would have been better if it was a sectional map. And then the other was the rule book. You know, the rule book could have used some love, in my opinion. I think it could have been a little bit more organized. Other than that, though, it was a really, really, really fun game.
I have you played it, Nate?
No, strangely enough, I have the expansion to OST, but I don't have the base game. So I still need
Problem.
to get.
Yeah.
It's no, one of my subscribers had for some reason gotten 2 copies of the expansion, so he sent me one of them, and I plan to get the base game. It's just on my list of need to
Right.
get
Right.
so I can cover
I
it.
can get you. Just get a copy of the rules. At least you just make something up and just goof around with it to try it, because it's an interesting system. One of the things that I liked, certainly liked the casualty track. I found the original armor rules to be basically kind of broken.
Speaking of casualties.
Oh, dead man. But they fixed the armor rules because you could hit something and cause a damage and hit the same thing over and over and over and over again, and it would not cause a bailout or a kill, right? You know how most times you get 2 damages on a tank, that's a kill.
Cumulative
3 or 5
damage.
Yeah, cumulative, right? So they fixed that, which was great. And then the thing I don't this rolling for impulses, especially got 3 or 4 dice, so I can get anywhere from, with 3 dice, I can get from 3 to 18 impulses. So
crazy.
As the attacker for the first turn, if you get crappy rolls the first 2 turns, you may as well just stop and reset and go, okay,
Now,
I think
by impulse you mean like activating
action. Yeah, activating guys.
Like
so
just one group or all your guys. So like each impulse is one group, one unit.
Basically one unit or one stack. I'm going to take this ear off here so I can hear how loud I'm talking. The impulses are an activation of a unit or a stack of units, or if you've got a leader or a group of units. So I found that a little frustrating, but once you get used to it and kind of just re-roll the crappy rolls, and I also think they've started saying there's minimums now, that in most scenarios, or the newer modules, I think there's minimums for a lot of them, so that's handy as well.
That just seems like it could cause some really big swings, because if one side gets a 3 and the other side gets an 18, I mean that's a huge
You're
swing.
sitting there, right? All you're doing is doing up fire, right? Yeah. So it could be problematic, and I think it could be tuned a little better. Like the scenarios maybe could have a little more thought put into them from that perspective. As the defender, you want to have maybe a minimum of 3 or 4 actions, and as the attacker, you want half a dozen if you've got 3 dice, right? So
see, for me though, I don't have any problem like home ruling something, ad hocing something, changing it, on my own. I've done that a lot with Conflict of Heroes, adding in my own solo scenarios, creating my own. I don't care. My concern is having fun with it. And as long as I'm having fun with it, I don't care if it's in the rule book or in the scenario booklet.
Hey, as a side point here, Stigler says, Sean Bean has always gotten killed in every other series film he was in. Kev is smart to avoid Sharp's rifles. Sean Bean survives the entire series. I think pretty much the only thing he ever did survive.
Which series are you talking about?
Sharp's Rifles.
Oh, is that a show or something?
Oh, is that?
Oh my God.
I haven't watched it.
Oh, that's right. You don't like old stuff.
The 70s.
Yeah, you got to speak to me like I've only seen stuff from the 80s and on. Late
There's
80s and on.
Okay, I may be a little off here. I think there were 15 movies. In England they call them series, just like they do with Sherlock. They have like series. They have like one movie as a series. It's not a series. It's a movie. But Sharp's Rifles was, I think, 15 movies. Maybe 12, 15, somewhere in that range. I'm pretty sure it was 15 or so. And fantastic
it was British movies.
Yeah, done by BBC, and it was. Not what?
BBC?
What do you say?
Oh, no way, dude.
No.
The Musketeers? You've not watched The Musketeers.
I've watched The Musketeers, but I've watched like the modern Musketeers.
Yeah, that's from the BBC.
Is it really?
In 2014. There were three seasons of The Musketeers.
No, not the show, the movie.
Oh, no.
That had, what's his name?
No, you're missing out, dude. You got to watch the series. It's great. It's great.
I watch good stuff. I don't watch old stuff or BBC crap.
It is good stuff. It is good, and it's old. Don't be like that. Look, I'm not a huge fan of the BBC, but the Acorn channel for $5 a month has more content, keeps my wife happy upstairs. She makes me watch some of it with her if she wants me to translate.
Britbox.
What's he saying? You think I understand Scottish brogue? No, I don't.
My wife will watch some of that crap, the British crap, their version of Jersey Shore.
Oh,
she got
what?
into. Yes.
How can you have a British version of Jersey Shore? There's only so much Jersey that you can do in England. You know,
it was like Cagney, like that Cagney accent, that really bad British accent, is what they were speaking. I can't copy it. I'm too Southern for that shit. But she was really getting into that. She's like, honey, don't you think this chick is trashy? Yes, babe, I do. Please stop. I want to watch this crap.
Stigler says, India is a far cry from Kentucky. I'm going to tell you right now, no.
It sure is, that's for sure.
So not Dead Man Kevin, it's Squirrel. I'm catching up on all these chats we've missed out on. Upfront is dramatically more tactical than Warfighter. Yeah, well, that goes without saying. And I see the Armchair Dragoons crew has joined in. With Jim chiming in about that. Upfront is more tactical than Warfighter. It is. No one is comparing the levels of tactical, beauty of the different systems, but Warfighter is a really fun system. I really enjoy it. I mean, if you want to just sit down, throw down some cards, and think tactically without having to get too overly detailed, great system.
Now,
and
hold on.
And the
I saw
narrative
someone
unfolds.
talking about Warfighter recently, and I want to ask you about this. The guy made a post saying that he wanted DVG to invest in an app for Warfighter that would automatically generate scenarios and unit structures with weapons and gear and all that other stuff. And some people were pointing out, like, hey, gearing up your guys is the best part of the game, which for some people I could get. Like me, I love doing that part, but I could see why some people don't like that part.
Nope.
The thing is an app, like a decent app for them to do that, would be fairly expensive for them to create, and it would have to be worth the investment. I just don't think that that would be worth it for DVG to put in that level of effort. You know what I mean?
Right. Would you pay $5 for it or $10 for it? Because it would probably cost $100,000 to make it. Right?
No, I wouldn't even put it that high. It'd be in the thousands, but I don't think it would be near that high. It depends on the quality that they
well, I mean,
how much do you know about software development, Nate?
I know that I make videos.
It's a little different, but kind of the same because it has PCs. So,
dick.
This is why we have happy hour.
No, I get what you're saying, but that's the point I was making to the guy, though. I'm like, is it going to sell enough games to cover the investment and be worth, some profit for him in the end? No, it's not. DVG is not
probably
going
not.
to that.
It's probably not $100,000, but it's a lot of money. It's certainly more than a few thousand.
Yeah.
Even if it was a mobile app, right?
Yeah.
Just because of all the artwork and getting that artwork in and vectored and then having the random drawers and the pulling down and all the bits and pieces and bug checking and QA, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
It's a lot more. There's a lot more that goes on the scenes behind software development than people really appreciate. So, what Kev's saying is a really good point.
Wait, Kev, do you do software crap?
Yeah, sort of. I don't do it, but I have people that do it, and I yell at them a lot. So.
I like that. Like, my people take care of it.
I wish that were my people, but they're just people.
John says, I thought Sharp was always away from the 95th because he had a hot date with the Queen of Spain. He was with the chosen man. 1993.
Is that really?
Is it really that recent?
I could listen to Sean B talking about musket powder all day. I can't do his voice. He's got that really great accent. I love Sean Bean. I'm a big Sean Bean fan, and it's like the big joke is they don't kill Sean Bean, and it's great because pretty much everything he goes into, he dies.
Yeah, that's why I stopped watching Game of Thrones. Not trying to spoil it for anybody.
Watched no. Jeez, at this point,
Yeah.
I actually was excited. My wife got into Game of Thrones, and I was like, "Oh, Sean Bean's in it." Wow, crap, he died like in episode 2 or whatever that was. I was like, okay, well, yeah, he pretty much lived out his life cycle in movies and shows, but
he was the main character.
Eddard Stark or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, what are you doing? No, stop killing characters that we like.
Yeah, exactly.
They do that. They do. That's the thing these days, right?
Yeah. Well, after that, the only reason to watch the show was for the naked chick, and you'd seen her enough in season 1, so you're pretty well covered.
Like, well, yeah, which naked chick?
Oh, I like the cute platinum blonde one. Can't remember her name.
Khaleesi?
Yeah, the one that was doing Aquaman.
Yeah, I watched, I think, one season of. My wife has watched, I think, pretty much all of them. I haven't watched anything past like season 1. I got into it, and I really like. I can't think of his name. The little guy.
Oh yeah, the Lannister.
No, the actor though. Well, yeah, Tyrion Lannister, but I mean the actor himself. I think he's a fantastic actor. Every time he's on screen, and I mean this sincerely, you forget that he is. You know, there's anything about him, about his height or anything like that. You forget about that because he's a great actor.
No, I think he uses it.
Oh, he absolutely does. Yeah. And I was like, man, I just love this guy. You know, when I was watching the episodes, I was like, man, I really love this guy. But I remember when I watched it, I was really sick and I was taking a lot of NyQuil. So I was like, yeah, I'm totally lost, because this is a series you really need to pay attention to, because there's a lot of plots and subplots that you need to be paying attention to, you know. And I was like, I'm going to come back to this someday. And now that it's complete, I'll probably sit there and binge it one day, or not one day, but at one time. So that way I can follow it a little more, you know, closely. But he was fantastic. And I thought, what's her name? The one who played the sister, I forget her name right now. She was also in Dread, and she was amazing in Dread. She was in Chronicles of, or Sarah Connor Chronicles. Can't think of her name.
Are you talking about the chick from Firefly?
No, not
Summer Glau.
No, not Summer Glau, who I love, you know, because I love Firefly. But I can't think of the actress's name. She was she played Mama in Dread, the new Dread, the best Dread. If anybody's not seen Dread, go see Dread. You know,
you talking about Judge Dredd?
No, Dread, not
Olivia?
Judge Dredd, not Stallone. Dread. What was that?
No, it's not her. Never mind. What was her name? What was the character's name?
Mama. In Dread, I can't think of her name. She was also in Game of Thrones. She was the one with Lena Headey. Oh my God, she was amazing. She's a beautiful woman. In Dread, they made her look like, you know, she's scarred up and everything else.
Was she the queen?
Owned it.
The blonde
I'm not sure
chick?
she's the queen.
No, she was not the queen.
No, she's the one with the brother at the first season.
Yeah, the one that was doing her brother?
Yes.
She's all right. She's like a solid 7, but she ain't. Like,
no. She's a great actress. In Dread, though, if you pull up IMDb and look at her on Dread, they made her. I mean, she's an attractive woman. They made her look hideous, but she owned it. Yeah, she owned it. And I hope they continue on with that Dread series, because I thought Carl Urban.
Oh, I love Carl Urban.
Dread. He was Dread. He was perfect as Dread.
Yeah, they're not going to redo it. If they were going to do another Dread, they would have done it by now. Carl Urban is he's not in his prime movie acting time period anymore. He hasn't done anything in a while.
He was a great Bones. He was a great Bones.
I like that series. I know we're getting sidetracked again, but I like that series.
It's Happy Hour, man.
Too Human. Did you ever see that? They only
had one
season.
Was good. That was good.
I loved it. I hate that they canceled it. I thought that was a great show. You know,
it was on Fox.
Yeah, him and the robot. Fox does that shit all the time. They're like, "Oh, we have this great show. What would you do with it?" Fucking cancel
Firefly
it.
Fans will, you know, just laugh at you when you say that, because it's like, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
From 2002, they've been screwing our great shows over.
Firefly is my favorite show ever, dude. I love Firefly.
Before that, there was another great show called Space Above and Beyond.
Never saw that.
Anybody familiar with that?
I think I've heard of it. But...
You need to watch it, Nate. It is the Marine Corps in space, and they go through boot camp, and guess who the drill instructor is?
R. Lee Ermey?
Yes, it is.
Is it really? It's earlier. God, I love earlier.
It was great. It was a lot of fun, and it was interesting.
You know,
The
I
good
had
thing
a
is there
chance
was
to
a
meet
closure
him,
to it, though. What's
and
that?
I had a chance to meet him and missed it, unfortunately.
Okay, you're gonna hate
And
this.
and he's
What?
Arlie Ermy. He's a great guy, the gunny. He was at my base camp when I was deployed overseas. He was filming an episode of Mail Call about how we were handling something or other. I was working the night shift, but I knew he was going to be there the next day. But I was sleeping through the days at that point, and I told someone, I'm like, all right, when he's here, wake me the hell up. They didn't wake me up, and I ended up sleeping right through the time he was there. And the dude was great because after he filmed the show, he stayed and talked to the Marines and took pictures, and he waited until every Marine that wanted to see him got a chance to see him. Yeah, kiss my ass. I'll hit you.
That's great.
When did you get to
Yeah.
meet him?
That was shit. Let's see, 2014.
So a little while back. Where was it?
Yeah, it was here in Allen. I live in Allen, Texas, and he was at Cabela's, and
You
I was
just
like,
ran
way.
into him out of the blue?
"Yeah, no. He was here for SOG. He was doing a thing for SOG knives, and I was like, "Oh, Gunny Army," and my wife's like, "Oh, we're going, right?"
I know
she
shit.
knows, and I'm like, yeah, hell yeah, because she used to love watching Mel Call too. She knows how Gunny is just he's a legend in the Corps. So I was like, yeah, let's go see him, and she was talking to him. I was talking. He was such a nice guy, completely polar opposite of
pretty
what
cool.
you expect. Because we all know him as Gunny Army, and he's
Yeah.
just Gunny from Full Metal Jacket, and he's like,
Sure.
yeah, I'm all typecast. No one wants to hire me to do anything else. I don't know why. And he kind of laughed at it. My wife's like, oh my God, you're such a sweet guy. You're like my favorite grandfather type of guy. It's like, well, thank you, sweetheart. Like that.
The
He
funny
was
thing
great.
is when he was at the base camp, one of the first things he did was address all the troops, right, before they came out and talked to him. And he's like, all right, I'm going to answer it now because I know what you effers are going to ask. And he's like, they paid me $100,000 to kiss Jack Black, and I'd kiss any one of you motherfuckers for $100,000, and y'all do it too. And everybody bust out laughing because that's exactly what everybody was going to ask. Like, how is it kissing Jack Black? And I can't blame the guy. If someone dangled $100,000 in front of my face, I'd kiss a guy. I don't give a shit.
With tongue?
$200,000 for tongue. Yeah,
Yeah, I was gonna say because I'm not doing
No,
tongue.
get into the
Not for
millions
20
now.
grand.
you gotta
Yeah,
chip
yeah.
in a little bit. It's
No,
gotta
no,
be
I-
life-changing money.
Billions.
Yeah.
Well, not billions. I mean, for billions, there's damn near
For
anything I
tongue,
do.
it's billions.
Shit, for $1 billion, I'll swallow, and I'll do it with a smile on my face. I don't give a shit. All right, the beer's kicking in.
Wow, he's had one beer.
We're gonna have to I'm on.
No.
This one's getting ready to be 3.
Oh no, that's right. You start off with a can. Now you're on.
Yeah, he
one.
had a can first. Yeah.
Nice.
We're watching. We're coaching you.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
making sure you've been.
Yeah, these
I wanna-
young-
That's what-
we don't want to get in trouble with the missus.
No, she brought them to me.
You know
I
what a
saw-
dad does to his medication.
She's
No,
a good
I don't
woman.
want. At least when are we going to bring her into the show?
I have to talk her into it because the time period after the kids go to sleep, she's like, "Don't bother me. The kids are asleep. This is my time."
It's her
It's
time.
a quiet time, right?
Yeah.
I need to watch this show then. Is it a TV series? This Space is Above and Beyond? Whatever.
You can get it on DVD now. I don't think it's on streaming anymore. I don't think anybody's got it
What
on
is a
streaming.
DVD? What is a DVD?
What? You don't buy DVDs?
I don't.
If I can avoid it.
I mean, we own DVDs. I don't own a DVD player anymore. I gave up on those 5 years
It
ago.
was funny when this whole thing started, and I remember when all of this started, and everyone was talking about, oh, in Europe they were like throttling the internet. It was a big thing at first. Netflix users, oh, they're panicking because they can't get HD. They're only getting SD. And I was like, that's why I buy DVDs, because nowadays you get DVD and you get the digital, so you have both.
Why were they throttling it though? I mean, what point?
Because just think about it. You only have so much network. You only have so much bandwidth, right? And then with people working from home and people being at home, well, that bandwidth gets really narrow. and you need the bandwidth for essential services, things like that. So you do have to throttle. And Netflix was getting hammered, and they just were like, we're going to knock it down from 4K UHD down to SD. And I don't think they needed to go that far, but I think it was because they were like, holy crap, this is happening. And it did. Everything happened all at once, and they just went.
Right.
And then they were like, okay, well, we'll loosen it back up now. So.
Oh, the European countries infringe on people's freedoms? No, say it isn't so.
Hey, who's locked in at home?
Oh, America is too, I can't really say anything.
Let's not get started. Let's not go there.
Arlie Ermy is a legend, absolutely. He was a drummer.
So with this, you said it. So it's only on DVD. Yes.
Yeah, you can get it on DVD.
I mean, I can rip.
You'd like it. You'd like it because you have to remember I think it was 90s, early 90s. So it's not the greatest special effects, but the story was really cool because you had these things called, if I remember correctly, they were called tanks. There were people that were basically just not in vitro, but they were what do you call that? Test tube babies, basically, and they didn't have families and stuff, and so there was this distrust of these people too. So kind of like as most sci-fi does, they kind of like deal with social issues of racism and things like that.
Right.
And it turns out this guy's one of the guys who's a tank. He's just like a badass Marine. He's equivalent to everyone else. So it kind of shows that, hey, you know what? When we're all on the same side, we're all equal, which I thought was kind of cool. And it had females, had males, and had different colors and races, and it was really neat. And I thought it was pretty cool. And the overall story itself was a lot of fun. It was kind of like pre-Battlestar Galactica, level of drama. And BSG took it to a whole new level, which I both love and hate BSG, but it's one of those things where I really need to sit down again and watch it from beginning to end. I don't know what everybody's thoughts are on BSG, but that's just me.
I was never big.
Never saw the whole series. Yeah, never saw the whole series. I got sort of frustrated with it after a while.
What did you get frustrated with?
I'm not a big TV guy. My TV's on my board. My that's my TV. So
World at War 85.
Yeah. Quickly, rabbits, bunny rabbits, squirrel. So,
but yeah, no, I was the same way with BSG. I absolutely loved Adama. I mean, his Edward James almost is an amazing actor.
Yes,
his portrayal was just legendary in my opinion. It was amazing, and as was Rosalind. I loved the way they kind of played off each other and together. But some of the other stuff was annoying. The thing that really annoyed me was Baltar and Six. They would just slide off into these like stupid things where he was dreaming her, and I was like, you're taking me out of the story now,
Right,
and it was, I understand the point they were making, but it was kind of, that's where I kind of lost it. But as far as like the military aspect of it, I loved it.
Right. I am watching at the moment. I just started because I read the book series and enjoyed it immensely. Was Altered Carbon.
Oh, it's great.
Very good.
Yeah.
Season 1 or 2?
I'm only on episode 2.
Don't say anything about season 2.
Don't say anything.
Yeah.
But I've read the books, but I don't know if it's the same. So it's very
not
different
the same.
Yeah, it's not the same because the books are awesome. My son had just told me that he watched Altered Carbon, and he said he came in and said, "Oh, what are you watching, Dad?" And I was like, "Oh, this Altered Carbon thing. I'm not sure I'm going to watch too much of it because if it's anything like the books, it'll be super gory." And he goes, "Oh, it's gory, but it's not that bad." And I said, "Oh, have you watched it?" And he goes, "Yeah, it's really, really good." I said, "Well, I've got the books." He goes, "No way." So I went and grabbed all the books for him. So he's up there reading them right now. Actually, I gave them to him this afternoon. So yeah, I think it's good.
I went into the series completely, blind on the whole show. I mean, on the whole story. Yeah. So it was really good. And I can't remember his name. The actor in the first series.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name, but I really like that actor. He's a really good actor. He was in a couple of other The Killing, and then he was also in what was that?
Suicide Squad.
He was also in that.
Yeah.
He's a really good actor, and I liked him in it. But the interesting thing about that, which may kind of upset some people, is it's kind of like The Crow. And I love Brandon Lee in The Crow in the first one, but it's a skin. You can literally in this series, so you can have a million actors playing it over the span of and actresses playing it over the span of how many years, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, so they could go on with it if they wanted to, but the best part is you get to see that female cop naked, and that's worth watching the whole series. I mean, even
now I'm on a mission.
Even my wife, I mean, she watched the first season with me. When she saw that part, she's like, "Okay, she's perfect. She's like the perfect female. She fits all the roles."
Wow. Cool.
Wow.
Cool. I saw her working out in the first or second episode. I was like, oh, she's pretty buff, but I haven't had an opportunity to appreciate anything else.
No, I'm lucky. Yes. Like, my wife will point out other hot women if we're out. Like, we were at the beach one time, and we look up and we see this couple, and they're both like Adonises. Like, the guy's perfectly sculpted and the girl's perfect. And she's doing this number where she slaps him in the arm. She's like, look, she's got a perfect ass. Look at that ass. And she's just like slapping me. And I'm like, shh, we're coming up on them. We get by and walk a few steps up, and she's like, I want to turn around. I got to see her butt again. I'm like, okay, let's go back. I'm not going to complain. I am here for you, baby. It's a woman.
Oh, you're talking about that Martha Higuerota?
The Hispanic
chick. Actress? Yeah, she was really, really pretty. And then James Purefoy and Joel Kinnaman is the guy I was thinking of. James Purefoy is another fantastic actor. I mean,
Joel
really
was
good
in that other series on Netflix, the one Killing? About the girl.
Oh, yeah. Abigail.
The girl that
it was the name. Like Abigail or something like that.
Yeah,
I haven't watched that.
I've only watched half of it. They were living out in the middle of the woods, in the middle of nowhere for forever.
Have you guys watched that Tiger King shit yet?
No.
Thank God. My wife keeps barking up my tree telling me to watch that, and I'm like, I really don't want to watch it. I don't know. Everybody seems obsessed with it.
Hannah.
That's it.
I haven't seen that one.
He's a really good actor.
That's a cool show. I haven't seen all of it. Yeah,
he's a really, really good actor. Underrated, in my opinion, because he's a big dude, and he commands the screen in size, but also his intensity on screen, which is I really just, even when he's playing a kind of a guy who's kind of a bad guy, you're like, I want to see more of this guy. You know, just like James Purefoy, he could play a good guy or a bad guy. I want him on screen. I don't care if he's good or bad. I want him on screen.
Right.
That's the guy that was in Solomon Kane, right?
Yes. He was in Solomon Kane.
Yeah, he does really good. I like it.
He's a really good actor. And he was in the Killing also, I think it was called. It was Kevin Bacon. And he was the mass murderer or the serial killer that Kevin Bacon was after. It was I think it was another Fox show, and that actually did last past one season, which I was amazed by. But he's a really good actor, and he's another one of those guys that kind of commands a screen and is a little underrated in my opinion.
Sorry, I'm looking at what John wrote.
What do you write?
Look. No, one more down. But yes, Stigler. Right.
So John says we have a traditional old school marriage. We have separate wings of the house. And I snore, she farts. All right. And on to the next one. Stigler goes, hee hee hee. And James Purefoy was in Rome was another great show. That was another great one that had the guy from Grey's Anatomy, who ended up going on to Grey's Anatomy. I can't think of his name. Who was also in my favorite werewolf movie ever, Dog Soldiers.
Oh, that is the best, isn't it?
Oh, that's a good show. Yep.
Oh my God! If they had just
I've seen that one.
If they, oh my God, that is amazing. If they had just done a part two, they would. Guys, if you're watching the show, if you've not seen Dog Soldiers,
watch it. Absolutely.
Fantastic. It's aliens meets werewolves.
The best, though,
seriously,
is when that guy's like fighting the werewolf with his bare hands, pans and shit.
Spoon.
And
Spoon.
and he's
Yes.
getting ready to get eaten, and like the thing's got him up in its claws. Like, I hope I give you indigestion. Like,
No, he goes, I hope I give you this
That's
shit.
hilarious.
or shit, yeah, whatever.
Right.
Like
There is no spoon.
that's the way to go out. You go down swinging. That guy was hard.
Oh my God, Spoon was great. There's so many great lines in that movie.
Yeah.
He goes out there and he he runs out into the woods and he's like, "All right, you beauties," or how do you put it? He goes, "All right, you beauties, come at it," or something. You bastards. Is like that's a line from the Wild Geese. It was like perfect. And then he ends up dying and he's like, "I hope he give you the shits, you fucking wimp." And I was like, oh my God, that's great. And he spits the gum in the face of the wolf. And I was like, oh, that is awesome.
I actually watched a documentary about the making of that movie, and evidently it almost wasn't made, and there was like a lot of back and forth, but it ended up, obviously being made, and it turned out excellent. I think they kicked the shit out of it. The main sergeant, the one that got his guts ripped out.
Yeah, he was Alfred on Gotham.
Yeah, when he read the script, like he said, "Let me know when you guys are filming. I'll make myself available. I'll be there."
Sean Pertwee.
Yeah, he did excellent in it.
He was awesome. His guts are hanging out there, like pushing him back in. He's like, "Oh, sausages." So many great lines in that movie.
Excellent movie, I gotta say. First time I watched it, I think I was stoned in college with my brother.
Have you guys seen Death of Stalin?
No, I haven't seen
Not
that.
yet. No, that's what
Great movie.
was up here. Holden was talking about recently watched Death of Stalin on Netflix. Best thing I've seen, 1917. Two things. Death of Stalin, you go. You've seen it. You talk about it.
Oh, I have a lot to say about it. I enjoyed the movie. It's hilarious. It's dark. It's without I can't really talk about it. It'll spoil the movie, but it is an extremely funny movie about the inner workings of the Politburo. So it's cool. It's really worth watching. It's got great actors in it, and everyone's out to backstab everybody else. And it's classic 60s, 70s Russia, whenever it is, whenever Stalin died. I don't know.
Kind of like a marriage.
It's just exactly like a marriage, except with Russians.
Good Russians. The funny thing is, back in, okay, Nate, this is probably when you were a kid, but back in the 90s, when I was, after I got out of the military, I got back involved in hockey. I was coaching and then I was officiating as well. And there was one of the things I got pulled into, which I thought was one of the coolest experiences I ever had in hockey was, I was pulled in to officiate a couple of games where this Russian team was traveling around America and they were playing different, teams, men's league teams and stuff like that for charity and whatever, just for fun and charity. And these guys were amazing to watch. From a hockey standpoint, it was beautiful. I mean, it really was. Their passes were soft and on target, and they just scored without any effort. And it was really amazing. These were former Soviet national players. These were guys in the Soviet national team, not on the team, but in the system.
Squad,
and some guys were on the team. And afterwards, we talked, and they were in the Soviet Red Army, and we talked about it, and we had a really good time. I remember one night after the game, after I reffed the game, we were sitting down, we were drinking, and we went on for hours. And these guys were like, hey, this is really cool, the experience we're having over here, because this is only a couple of years after the wall fell. And you're like, a few years ago, we were all thinking we were enemies. We're just all the same. We're just all the same. And it really did bring home the fact that even though there was the whole, the Iron Curtain and all that stuff, we're all the same, so it really did bring home that thing, even though there's differences. In essence, we're all the same. We can all be friends. If you dial it back 6-7 years, we could have been shooting at each other. Thankfully, we weren't.
I've always thought
cool.
that the guys who are actually doing the fighting, the only difference between them is where they were born, right? That there's really no difference. They're patriotic and want to support their country, and these guys are patriotic and want to support their country, or conscripted. And the people who really have a problem with each other are the ones at the top, the ones that
Oh,
aren't
yeah.
going to get killed anyway. So each side's
Right.
just go up there and take out those guys. Problem solved.
Easy way to
Well,
do it is just make them
It,
fight.
it, it's an option, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish it was like back in the day, where the leaders had to fight. The king was down there actually getting stuck in as well, like Vikings. That's a good show.
Oh,
I love
yeah.
that. Like,
Yeah, that's
right.
a good show. I've seen some of that. Yep.
I got respect for that though. A leader that gets stuck in with his troops, if they're, in the shit, you're in the shit.
Mhm.
I had a first sergeant that was like that. We were running a field X. It was real cold. It was real wet. It was rainy, and there was this little like shelter area where the officers and high level NCOs had set up their tents and bivouacked, and they were all dry and warm there. And the first sergeant drug his stuff out into the mud, and they're like, "Hey, first sergeant, what you doing? Like there's broom up here." And he's like, "If my troops are in the mud, I'm in the mud."
Right.
That's the way it's supposed to be.
Field
Absolutely.
soldiers, right? Right.
I had a lot of respect for that guy. Ever since I saw him do that, I had actually ended up being injured. I sprained my ankle on the force march up, and that's the only reason, because I was, lower rank. I should have been out in the mud with the guys, but I'd been light dutied, so I was up there for the remainder. But I was not upset because that was the that was the time period where we were having to do our gas mask requalification. So we had to
Oh,
do.
come on. That's the funnest time ever.
That's the best time
mask-
ever.
No,
Gas chamber is the
Kev,
best.
you've never been in it. You don't know what I'm talking about.
No, I
It
know.
sucks
I've
balls.
I've seen videos.
It's
I'm
painful.
just kidding.
It's terrifying.
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
I didn't realize until the second time I went through it that I had such a traumatic experience the first time that I was like physically reacting. And we're all lined up the next time I had to qual with a gas mask. And I'm looking at my buddy who's right next to me. I'm like, dude, I can't go in. And like my hands are shaking as we're getting ready to go in the gas chamber. I'm like, I really don't want to go in here. And I'm like, you've got to physically push me in because I won't go in on my own. And he pushed me in. And as soon as I crossed the seal, I was good.
Eh.
I was okay. But going up into it, like my heart was ready. It was like a panic attack getting ready to go in there because I knew what I was stepping into. You're like, I'll fight anything, but I don't want to breathe in something that breathes like
You
fire.
hit on a good point. You hit on a really good point. You don't want to go there, but once you step over that barrier, you're like, okay, you're at peace.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm here. Now I've got to deal with it. Now I've got to rely on what I've done before, and I'm going to just deal with it as I did before and using the experience I had before to do it better. So it's kind of cool.
I actually got a funny one for you. When we were in boot camp, that same guy that I told you was a tripod, he panicked in the gas chamber.
Freaked out, yeah.
And this
I bet
guy,
you get on swim fall too.
there's always someone, right? There's always someone that panics in the gas chamber.
Yeah.
And this guy bolted for the door, and he beat
Really?
off, I think it was 4 or 5 drill instructors. Like, he physically hurled these guys away, like slammed them into walls, knocked them away. He got his ass out, and he took off running for the woods. And the funny part is the drill instructors, caught him and they drug him back through to make him go through it, but they didn't punish him because they had respect for the guy that he took on 4 or 5 of them and won. They're like, if you took out that many of us on your way out, we got respect.
You win. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
You earned your reprieve. We're not going to punish you for that, but you're getting your ass in the damn gas chamber, and they
But you're
drug it
going
back in
through, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
there. There's no choice. You got to go through it. Otherwise, you can't graduate. It's
Just
a
like,
qualification.
Just like I'm gonna give a shout out here to Patchwork Pictures, not only for mentioning Steve Buscemi, who's an amazing actor, freaky looking, but an amazing actor. And a side note for those who don't know, he was a former New York fireman. And on
I
9/11,
didn't know that.
yeah, on 9/11, he went down to his old station house, suited up, and went to Ground Zero.
No
He
shit.
didn't. Yes, absolutely. He did not look for, hey, I'm Steve Buscemi, the actor. No, I'm a fireman. He threw on his turnout gear. He went down with his crew and he did the work. Absolute top respect for the man for that. And an amazing actor on top of that.
Yes.
Olga Kurylenko. God, I love her. That's all I got to say on that.
There's something about Russian broads, man.
She's gorgeous. I love her. So yeah, I thought that was pretty cool that he brought that up. Comrade Detective, Kev, you watched that? I've not seen it.
Yeah, it was either Netflix or some show, but it's rough and ready Romanian detectives. It's good. It's
Really?
good, and it was a good show. It was kind of like a cop show set in the worst of times. So everyone's out to make an angle and make a dollar, and you've got the political backdrop to everything. It was a cool show.
Is that on Netflix?
Dude, it was a long time ago when I watched it. I have no idea.
I'm going to look for that now. I want to watch that. That's why we have the happy hour, so that we can all share this information. Comrade Detective. Need to look for it.
Sounds kind of like American Gangster, where all the cops are in on it.
American Gangster is amazing.
I always liked Denzel Washington. I always thought he was a really good actor.
There's not a. I honestly cannot think of.
Yeah.
I cannot think of a movie he's been in that has been bad.
Yeah, I mean he pretty much steals the show on it.
He's one of my favorite actors of all time.
Plus, from what I've heard, he's supposed to be good people. Like,
oh no, he's a really cool. Yeah, he's really cool.
It is on Netflix. Or no, it's actually on Prime.
No.
Oh, nice. Either way, I got it.
Netflix, it's I think it's set in the 70s. The dudes are wearing sheepskin coats and leather jackets, and it's classic.
Nice.
I didn't watch all of it, but I watched 5 or 6 episodes. I really enjoyed it. It's really good.
Comrade Detective. It is your duty.
Book him, Daniel.
Yeah, he's saying he got to spend a day with Olga.
What?
Yeah.
What?
No way. Well, she's beautiful.
That she's short. Guys don't care if the girl's
I don't
short.
care. I'm short. I don't give a shit.
Short
I
just
like them when
means
they're
you can
short.
pick her up and move her easier. What?
John says we're in the field of Mop 4. Mop 4 does suck. I will say that. And then Kev chiming in from the cheap seats says Comrade Detective is great. And then he's like, you get out of the gas. No, sit on your ass in the middle of it. I think I missed that one. Is that part of Comrade
Detective?
He's
talking about being in Mop. He's talking about being
Oh, yeah.
I hated mop gear.
Gas.
God, we had first sergeant that loved to do that shit all the time. God, I hated him. Every time we turned around, he was like, gas. Shut up. We're in the desert.
There it is. I had to look it up. He says, I got to spend the day with Olga. She was doing a series called Magic City, and I worked with her. She is surprisingly short. Not that I cared. That makes I love her even more now because I'm short.
What does Patchwork Pictures do? He's obviously in the film industry.
Yes.
What sort of work did he do with her is what we want to know.
I'm jealous. Totally jealous.
These broads, they're going to have a high opinion. I mean, what is
She's beautiful. Doesn't matter. She's beautiful.
What's that chick? She was with either like Peyton Manning or Tom Brady or some shit. And
which one?
I can't remember the broad's name, but
the broad. What is this? Freaking 70s?
Yeah.
The broad's name. I can't remember the broad's name.
Well, I can't remember her name, but I think she was with Tom Brady, and she was like divorcing or trading up or some shit. Like, you think you can do better than what you have now? No, there's no better.
Well,
like,
the girl that
no
was
up.
the girl that was with Tom Brady before Giselle was the girl who was absolutely gorgeous too. She's on Blue Bloods, which is an amazing show. I can't think of her name right now. Like usual, when you get on talking, in a show, you forget names. But I'll have to look it up.
See, that's the thing, though. If you're a football star, high-level politician, really, really rich or something like that, you're never going to know if the chick's with you because she wants to be with you or if she wants to be with your wallet. I mean, just be honest about it.
She's successful in her own right, so it's not like she needs the Tom Brady money, although he does make a few more bucks than she does.
It doesn't matter if she needs it; she wants it.
Bridget Moynihan. Who
Yeah,
was a very pretty woman in her own right. And I love that show. If you've not seen Blue Bloods, another great show.
that's the
No, I have
cop
not.
one, right?
Oh, yeah. It's in season 10. Believe it or not, season 10
Been around for a
on
minute.
CBS. Oh, yeah. It's been around. And the most amazing thing about being in season 10, for the most part, everybody's still there. Unlike other TV shows where half the cast goes and they just continue on like ER and stuff like that. No, whose dog is barking?
Gotta
Me.
be Kev's. I don't have one right there.
I have 3 dogs, and it sounds like 2 of them are at the front. I'll
Somebody's in the yard.
Doesn't that drive you crazy if you're trying to record something and as soon as you hit the record button, that's when the dogs get to bark at shit?
You have no idea. And by the way, Troy made a mistake. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to go fix this dog thing. I'll be back.
Yeah, go ahead. And Patchwork says he worked on crew as a freelancer at the time he worked with the DP. Olga was early in her career and was really excited and super nice.
Yeah, that
Well,
changes.
Well, it could. But then again, some people are just nice, And which movie was this? If you were the director of photography, was it Hitman 47? That's a guess. That was a good movie. Timothy Oliphant.
I really liked it. A lot of people didn't, but I liked it.
Oh, Timothy Oliphant is amazing. He was great in Justified and Deadwood.
Oh yeah.
If you've not seen
Justified
Deadwood,
was really good.
warning on Deadwood. Very foul language. So just be prepared to hear a lot of words that, Nate and I pretty much are fluent in. But if you're not, you're going to be like, first time I watched it, I was like, I didn't even blink. I was like watching it. Oh,
Come
okay.
on, we graduate boot camp with a whole nother language when it comes to cursing.
When it comes to, I was in the Marine Corps and I'm from Jersey. So, I definitely am very fluent in profanity.
Freaked my grandmother out the first time I used the term dick skinners around her and she didn't know what I was talking about.
Nice.
Like, Grandma, that means hands.
Exactly. So the first time I watched that movie, my wife, she's from Jersey, but she's a little different than me when it comes to, level of profanity. I dial it down here, but I can, use it when I can speak profanity fluently. But when it came to that movie, I watched Deadwood and I was like, okay, it didn't bother me. And my wife sat down and the first episode, she turned to me, she goes, what the fuck did you put on for us? Because it was extremely vulgar. It's very vulgar. So after the first couple episodes, though, you kind of grow numb to it if you're not already fluent in that. So first episode, I was like, okay, I feel like I'm back in Jersey. It was just the way we talked, but besides that, amazing characters, amazing, even though there's a lot of profanity, amazing writing, the talking dialogue is just really good. Not even talking about profanity, just the dialogue itself is great. And the characters were amazing.
No, I haven't seen Deadwood.
Great show.
My uncle was really into it back in the day. I just never got into it. Really like Justified, though.
Oh, Justified's great. Justified is basically a modernization of Deadwood. His same character, Seth Bullock in Deadwood. It's modernized for Justified and a lot less profanity, but it's very much the same type of character. And Seth. The interesting thing is how they took Deadwood, this historical period, and they made it. They blended it with fiction. And it was really cool how they took historical fact and they blended it with fiction and made a really cool story. And the whole Al Swearingen character and Seth Bullock characters just make the entire series, but everybody else as well is fantastic. Great story.
See, I always thought I would do well back in the Old West. I love my 6-shooter. Just go around, shoot anybody that bothers me. Be a good
Yes.
Player.
Olga Kurylenko, she's a picked warrior chasing after all the Legionnaires. That was another movie that she was in. And then we've got, I don't think there is such a thing as profanity anymore.
Yeah, there is.
That's true.
My little boy, he understands daddy words and not daddy words.
Daddy words.
That he's not allowed to say daddy words. That's how we've explained it to him because daddy can't keep his p's and q's. He did. He dropped the f-bomb the other day though. I gotta watch out for that.
That is the best when kids do that though, because it's so innocent. No, that's what makes it funny.
It was bad. One time we were going to church, and this is when he was younger. He had to be 2 or 3, so he wasn't at the age where we really could get across to him. Stop. And he just dropped the f-bomb. And then we busted out laughing because it was funny the way he said it when he's like 2 years old. But he sees us react positively, so he thinks, oh, this is a good thing. I should keep doing this. And he's just like, F, 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 F. And just tossing it out. We're like, no, stop. We're going to church. You got to stop. And we did everything we could to get him to shut up before we got to church because we had to drop him off in the daycare and we didn't want to get called out of the service for, hey, your 2-year-old is using a little too much profanity. He can't be in here around the other children. I didn't
want. Why the fuck are we waiting so long for communion?
Well, I didn't want.
Mr. Rogers, come and take your child home, please.
I didn't want to come back and find them trying to exorcise the demon out of him or some shit.
Dude, why did you not start a YouTube channel called Neighborhood? Mr. Rogers Neighborhood.
I should have. Even I got to stop with the YouTube shit. My little boy wants to do a YouTube channel now. He'll come
Really?
Yes, if he wants to tell me he's happy about something, he tells me I should smash the like button. He's too much into this shit. He's like, smash that like button and comments down below.
I saw him on the video doing that. That is great. I think it was on Facebook.
Yeah.
At least put that up. That was great.
But he thinks that terminology, and it gets worse when they play the ads, because especially when the political ads are on there, and they keep playing them over and over again, and they're catchy. Because there was a period of time where he kept coming up to us, telling us Linda Coleman is shady. Linda Coleman is shady. Dude, shut up! You can't keep saying this. You got to stop watching YouTube. But we want him to watch it because when he's watching videos, he's watching stuff about the solar system and the human body. He knows more about the human body than most high schoolers know about it. He's
awesome.
Really great when it comes to this stuff. It's the stuff after and before that he's also retaining. It's the problem.
Well, it's a different way of learning. Like Kevin and me, we grew up and it was read a book, maybe watch a movie, read a Cliff Note. Do you know what a Cliff Note is, Nate?
Yes, I do. I use them.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if they were still in existence anymore, but
they were in existence.
That was how we pretty much got through school. Cliff Notes were like, hey, I don't want to read the book. It looks boring as hell. I'm going to read the Cliff Notes and I'll just, hit on the high points. Smart teachers were, they caught on
to that. Yeah,
exactly. But when it comes to these kids today, I look back and I'm like, man, I'd love to grow up in today's world. You have the greatest research tool at your hands, the internet. You can, hey, I want to learn why do planets turn? Why do they spin? Google it. Boom. You got a video on it. You got an hour-long explanation on it.
He can name the planets from the sun out to the end of the solar system in order and tell you which moons they have. Shit that he knows.
What is Pluto a moon? Is Pluto a planet or not a planet?
It's a planetoid.
But
that's actually what they've officially classified it as. But I still count it as a planet because it was a planet when I was a kid, and if it was a planet when I was a kid, that's what it is.
All I know is my very excellent mother just ordered 9 pizzas. So if anybody learned the solar system using that acronym, they'll understand that.
Yeah.
Dan, you may not get that.
Somebody said Mongo. What is
Mongo?
Mongo is my brother's nickname.
That's your brother.
Yeah. I was like, what is he talking about, Mongo? Is Mongo maps? What's a Mongo map, John?
Oh, I think they're talking about Pacific War.
I haven't played that one.
Oh,
it doesn't solo well.
No, you can solo it.
You can solo it.
The chat stayed on topic, and they're on war games. The rest of us are talking shit.
We're going off on movies and hot chicks, and they're going on war games. What the hell, man?
Yeah,
let's get with the program.
My brother, he actually goes by Mongo. Like, that's his nickname. That's what he goes by. People know him as Mongo. And it's from that big freaking gingerbread cookie thing from Shrek.
Really?
Oh, yes. See, I would have thought it would have been from Blazing Saddles.
No, that he tries to claim that it's Blazing Saddles,
Mongo.
But he was really big at the time. I mean, he's really big now. He's from that, and then that.
He's saying he's fat.
Well, he is fat. I'm like a couple 100 pounds, and he's like 240, 250. So he's pretty big. Like, you can easily tell the difference between us. He's a solid big, but he's big.
Well, he's your twin, so you.
I think John's trying to say mounted maps. Because it's a mounted map. The new version of Pacific Wars mounted maps.
Oh, so not Mongo maps. I was like, what the hell?
Well, that was just announced by GMT, and it crossed the 500 mark before 6 hours was up.
Yeah, it's over 750 now. I think it's 20,000 actually.
I was one of them.
It just takes so long to get from P500 accepted to P500 in my hand. It's like there's a 10-year period in between here.
Oh, look at that. We have another person that's just emerged.
God, I freaked out there for a second because I just saw hands come in.
That's my oldest in a t-shirt, in t-shirt list, no less.
We have sci-fi here. We have, look at all the effects that Kev brings to the show here. He's like,
I'm just trying to bring some
out of the map and back into
the games. I'm popping them up.
Don't do that when I'm a little blurry, man. It threw me off. Just all the.
Mongo is a word.
He's gonna get mad that I'm talking shit about him.
Oh, Mongo, big lots many. Why isn't he here? He was here like one show, and then he like flaked on you.
Who, my brother?
No, Alex Karras, who is a real Mongo. Your brother's the second Mongo.
You try telling him that. He'll pick you up and body slam you.
He probably would because he's bigger than me. But the thing is Alex Karras is Mongo. Blazing Saddles.
So Stigler says P500 happens while the game is still under development. Yes, I agree that the game is still under development. But I'm impatient. That's the problem. There's a handful of games that I've still got on P500, and I want to hit that button where it says buy, and I want to get it like today. I'm a little spoiled by that.
Well, you know, the thing to keep in mind is when I talked to Gene, I think he mentioned it in the interview I did with him. There are 63 development teams within GMT. 63. Think about that for a second. How many other wargame publishers have 63 design teams working on games?
Shit, most of them don't have 63 people.
1, 2.
Yeah, so let's put that in context, right?
Sure.
I mean, that's not 63 employees, first of all.
Oh, no.
Certainly, and it's some dude in a garage working with a developer to help, right? So that's awesome that they have 63 games in the pipeline. It's nearly as many as Hollandspiel, right?
They're putting out 63 by the time that one comes out from GMT.
Yeah, right. Very different scale and different quality and all the rest of it, different styles and stuff. That's doing.
My thing comes from the bad estimate, right? Because I think they always underestimate how long it's going to take between the game, being on P500 to game actually being delivered. And I'm one of those people, I would much rather you overestimate, like by far, or even just leave it as TBD. That way I don't have any false expectations in my head, because once I do, and you're saying, mid 2019, and then it's beginning of 2021 when the game delivers, it might be accurate because of everything that's happened, but my brain's still thinking, well, you were supposed to deliver this a while ago, Don't put the expectation out there. And I've not said this just about GMT. I've said this about like all gaming companies, really.
Sure.
Estimate far, way far. because
Right.
the customers aren't going to be mad
Yeah, they will.
if they get it early, if they think they're getting it early, but they'll always be mad if they think they're getting it late.
Well, that's why it's so cool when you see companies do Kickstarters like Vento Nuovo, right? As an
Yeah.
example, Italian company, they they are going to make the game. Actually, I probably shouldn't say this, but they're going to make the game anyway. He uses his own money
Yeah.
to print, publish, and make it. Then he gets the money, and they deliver early every time. He's never been late,
Which
right?
makes me happy.
Right. So that's really cool. But the game is much further progressed than most other games that go to a Kickstarter or whatever the case may be. And he's also not dealing with China and massive shipping. It's all
Sure.
local production in Italy or Germany or wherever it is they buy the stuff, the bits, the cubes and bits and pieces from, because they're a block game company. But I don't know. I get frustrated with MMP because of their system. GMT, they've got so many games coming out. I don't know how they manage what they do. They seem to do a pretty good job overall. But you're right. It does sometimes. You're like, well, hang on. What was it? The Canadian MBT module. It got pushed back and pushed back and pushed back because Stalingrad 42 is more important because that's one of the owners, right? Well, it is. It's a great game, but it's also one of the owner's designs, right? So so other shit gets bumped off in preference for folks who are more important or more valuable in terms of revenue. So I certainly get that, but I don't have any problems with the way they do stuff, really.
I've never had a problem with their quality. Generally, the errata's always a non-issue. The components are good. I said generally.
They own it. If they fuck it up, they own it, right?
Yeah,
Hitler's Reich.
There's always exceptions, right? But generally speaking, I've never been overly disappointed. I've always been happy with a GMT purchase. My only thing is just estimate far, and it just comes down to a mnemonic thing, right? Just that the way the mind works, that if you estimate too early and it's way past that, that first estimate is still in my mind, you know?
Right.
Like,
what about estimating and then estimating and then not estimating far? You can talk Russian campaign.
What are you talking about?
I think there's something going on.
Constant press, but still through GMT.
Right. I think there's something going on there because Kranz is now at Compass, right?
Yeah, so I think that's part of it.
I think there's a political thing going on there. But here's the thing, right? So with P500, it's also a gauge. So they take a design and they go, oh, yeah, it's a Simonich thing. Sure, let's just put it up and we'll get 1,000 orders or 2,000 orders and we're done. But then when they get a relative unknown, they've got to put on P500 to kind of, gauge the interest. Are we going to take a year or 6 months or 2 years to get to 500? That then determines where it goes on the slot. So, and 500 is not the number, it's 750, but it's a way to gauge market interest. So they can then go, you know what, we've only got 400 orders. Off you go. Let's go back. And then once they get the 500, they're like, okay, we got them. That will pay to print 1,700 or 2,000 or 2,500 or however many they end up printing. Now let's go finish it, do the play testing, do the artwork, get it, tighten the rules up. And so it's a pretty complicated model for a freaking niche, tiny baby industry, right? That sells 100,000 units a year, all told, from everybody, if that.
There's a lot of moving parts happening in that situation, which is some other companies I know, they have it as close to production as possible. It might not be right at production, but it's close. So that way, when they do go to Kickstarter, it's right there. So they can deliver in 6 months because they're mainly waiting on production and maybe a final bit of playtesting, fleshing out a little bit of the rules. Problem is that I don't think Kickstarter was really designed for that. It's become pre-order,
It has with companies like Simon and stuff like that, where they come in and they're like, we're going to give you 150 miniatures for $150. And people are like, oh, it's totally worth it. You know, I'm going to get in on
Not if the game's
Zombicide
crap.
Season 7. Well, you know, like Zombicide, that is one of my guilty pleasures. I love Zombicide because Zombicide is perfect for just this. Hey, let's sit down, have some whiskey, have some beer, whatever, have some pretzels, and just throw dice and have fun because Exactly. I've gone through a situation before. I mean, I've talked about this before, I think one other time where we were at a con and I forget what the hell. It was Rue Morgue, I know that, but it was one thing where I had this power where I could kill extra guys with my chainsaw. And this dude got stuck behind us. And this is exactly what's so great about conventions. He got stuck behind us. He's like, oh, no, man, I'm stuck behind you. We're like, don't worry, bro. We're coming to get you. And we come running back in. And I rolled really good. Like one of the few times in my life, I roll good. And I just like slayed a shitload of zombies with a friggin' damn chainsaw. Because like, I forget what the power was. But if you killed like one or two, you got like one or two extra or some crap. It was some power. So I'm like, holy crap. And we just literally laid down all the miniatures that when we killed them, we laid them down so we could see the carnage as we exited out before we pulled them back up and, you know, reused them. And I was like, holy shit, look at the friggin' carnage. We were all like laughing afterwards. After we saved the guy, we were all like high five. We're like, oh, that's awesome, bro. That's awesome. That is the thing that you can never get from video games. That is the social part of board games that is just amazing, you know, and it was just so much fun.
Unless you're playing teams, like my guys, I've got 3 boys, right? So they're all right now. They're playing. I don't know what they're playing. I think there's a new World at War, like Call of Duty, something that's a free beta trial. They're all up there playing in separate rooms, screaming at each other online, right? Having a blast, and with their buddies and all this sort of stuff. They've got Discord running on the side and 2 monitors, all this crazy technology. Yeah. And so they are, you know, it's a different type of connection, which reminds me, I wanted to make a point from way back earlier on. You were talking about different learning styles of younger generations. I was talking to my 20-year-old. Is he 20 or 19? I don't know. Maybe
you should
20.
know this.
Doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter. It's okay. I think he's 20. So, but he we were sitting outside talking, and I was reading a book, and he's watching a YouTube video, and I said, well, what are you watching? And he goes, well, I'm just watching this thing on Wagyu, Japanese Wagyu beef, and this guy grows the beef, right? And how this Japanese dude grows it at his house, and it's the most expensive Wagyu in the world. And the guy does 2 calves a year. I said, well, that's curious. How'd you come to find that? He goes, well, I like watching all these videos. And he started showing me his playlist. So he's got the corn star, the guy that grows corn, right? So he's some dude up in the middle of nowhere in Nebraska or wherever they grow corn. He knows, I find out today, he knows all about harvesters, how they work, like the soil composition for corn and water consumption, and just this massive amount of content, right? And Wagyu beef, I don't know where the hell or how Wagyu beef is made.
It's made
I know
in
it's in Japan, dude. But my point is that he's totally consuming data and learning, because I keep ragging on him to get his ass out of bed during this lockdown. Get up and read a book, man. Improve your mind, improve your body, improve your mind. You know, and he's like, Dad, shut up, man.
Be productive.
Shut up, Dad. I'm learning my own way.
Look, Dad. Did you know that a harvester has 375 horsepower and does blah, 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 blah? Well, okay, I'll shut up. Time out.
He just learns the one fact to get you to shut up before he goes back to something more
yeah,
interesting.
Maybe. Back to the game, right?
Yeah.
Right. But it's curious. Anyway,
he's got like Fortnite going.
Right. I know that was a long sidebar, but I just wanted to mention that because it was interesting. Yeah.
No,
now, there's a point Von Deacon brings up, and what hope do we have of ever seeing a redesign of Submarine by Avalon Hill? That's an old game right there.
Have you played it?
I've never played that one.
I've always wanted to play it because I love subs, which is kind of, I guess I was a tanker, so it kind of ties into tanks because tanks you have visual, way more visual than subs do, but you're still fighting a similar battle. Subs would be super cool, and
but if your
tank
gets hit, you can get out.
Depends.
The sub gets it. Well, generally speaking.
Yeah.
You get pierced with Sabo, man. They ain't going to be nothing but spalding and fire inside that tank, so you're dead. I mean,
you're a splatter.
Yeah, you're going to be just sucked out that hole.
I'd still rather be in the tank than the sub. There's something about being crushed by the water, man.
Yeah, that's what I think is so cool about subs. You're fighting the environment as well as the opponent, the enemy. And I think that is the ultimate cat and mouse game on the planet today.
Right.
Is subs?
Yeah, real subs, like the real thing.
Lots of crappy games about subs out. I mean, there's a litany of very ordinary, or not well thought out, and or boring sub games. So maybe Submarine from Avalon Hill was the shizzle, and just no one's ever replicated it.
Not trying to call them out, but where would you put Steel Wolves on that one? Because I've always been intrigued by it because it seems to have like so much like just quantity of stuff, and I like big stuff. Yeah. But it seems like that might be all of it.
I'm not sure. I haven't played it. I haven't played any of them, right? But
you didn't play Hunters?
No.
The Hunters is not like Steel Wolves.
No.
Yeah, but Hunters is B-17 in a sub. I mean, you don't do anything. All you do is how many torpedoes do you want? That's the last decision you make, right? I mean,
RFN, roll for narrative.
Yeah, roll for narrative. Right.
But that's fine though. That's good in small.
That's cool. I didn't say it was bad. Just not for me, right?
No, Greg has come up with a great system that he's, just adjusted to different things. I mean, he's even got Zeppelins out there. And I remember when I was watching John talking about it on the Compass thing, I was like, there needs to be a Black Sunday scenario. If you're going to have Zeppelins, there has to be a Black Sunday scenario. Right. You remember the old Black Sunday movie with Robert Shaw? At the Super Bowl, they were going to there was a terrorist attack with the Goodyear blimp at the Super Bowl. Oh yeah, I was like, we need to have a scenario.
I haven't seen any of these movies.
Yeah, it's an old. I mean, that literally is a 70s movie. Let's see if anybody in the chat remembers that. No. I'm going through the chat now.
All right, well, I am gonna call it here, guys, because I'm about tired, and it's a little later for me than it is for you guys.
And you had a little alcohol tonight.
Yes.
So happy hour is over for you.
It depends on if the wife's feeling frisky. And happy hour.
Oh,
happy hour might still be up.
TMI.
Yeah.
TMI.
Don't live stream that, my friend. Don't live stream that, okay? Let's keep it family friendly at the Rogers household.
If I live stream that, I'm charging for it.
Well, like I always say, don't do anything I wouldn't do, but if you do, name it after me.
Yeah, no. All right. It was good chatting with you guys, though. I'm going to hop off.
Okay.
All right, brother. Take care.
Peace, guys. Nice seeing you all. And I'm sorry, I'm blurry. Bye, guys.
Take care, brother.